was a successful event for the 25th year in a row. We had weather which cooperated, which is totally bizarre. One time it actually missed it, but whatever. We had 88 people registered. We probably had over $1,000 in prizes. You know, the first prize that somebody could take was a cord of wood from Perner's. We had, if you guys ever get a chance to look at the back of the shirts, as I point out to all the runners, make sure you patronize the sponsors, because they're the ones who make this possible. And in the end, Scott Leslie, a former Quabbin alum, won the race for probably the 8th out of the last 10 times. And Julie Bergeron, who used to be Julie Monfrida, was the winner on the female side. And we had a couple pretty fast walkers too in the 30-minute range, 32-minute range, which is pretty fast for a 5K walking. We raised $3,700 for the library, that's the bottom line here. And everybody seemed to have a good time. There are shirts left over in the library if anybody wants to buy them. They're orange, so they can see you coming. We went with orange this year with a blue print on them, and very successful.
Very nice. Good. And then last weekend was Field Day, which looked to be a very good turnout. I was hoping Chris might want to, because he's a Lion, not to put him on the spot. Want to talk about his fundraiser and Field Day?
Yeah, it was a fabulous day. We had great crowds. We had record-breaking sales. Everybody seemed to enjoy the day. A lot of fun activities for the kids. We actually had a baseball game up there in the afternoon that coincided nicely with the end of Field Day, and great entertainment. Just a good overall day. No issues, no problems, no complaints. It's very nice. One of the best. One of the best so far.
Very good. All right. And then coming up, we have a bunch of fun things. On Tuesday, the library is doing Knitting with Tony, which he's going to be thrilled that I announced this on here, from 4:30 to 6:30. So bring your knitting needles and go say hi to Tony. Then this weekend,
And yarn.
yes, and yarn. This weekend we have the town-wide yard sale, which the seniors have been working on very diligently along with Sandaberry. The seniors will be starting theirs on Friday. But most people in general usually do the town-wide on Saturday and Sunday, which you still can sign up. Sanda is taking addresses for the map, which will be available at the senior center. But the town-wides are always a good thing to jump on for, especially get rid of all that junk that you have accruing in your attics and basements and things like that. So that's this weekend. And then the library also has coming up, which you can register for on the 27th. You can pass out paint from 5 to 7, which I believe is a Thursday. You can register through the library. It's on their Facebook page and the library website. So you can contact over there and sign up for that. And then they also have, the library's got a lot going on recently. They also have a visit with the president and Mrs. Grant coming up on October 1st, because I guess it's the 150th birthday for the town library. So they have put together a presentation about that time period, and it's going to be like a live interactive kind of thing, and it sounds really nice. It's on a Saturday from 4 to 5, I believe, October 1st. Yeah, that's a Saturday, right? Or is that a Friday? October 1st?
It's a Saturday.
Okay, so Saturday from 4 to 5 in the afternoon. And then the next big thing, well, I say big thing because it's mine, sorry, is Non-Such Night, which is October 8th with the rain date of the 9th, and it's going to start at 4 p.m. We have food trucks signing up, we have live music, and then we're going to be showing a movie, and we are going to be showing Ghostbusters Afterlife, the new Ghostbusters movie. So it's always free to enter and free to park, so come on down. There'll be plenty of food and all kinds of fun activities and things to do.
What was the date of that?
That is October 8th with a rain date of the 9th. So it's a Saturday with it's a holiday weekend, so the rain date's Sunday. So good stuff for now. That's enough, plenty enough for the next couple weeks. Then we'll add to that.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we have minutes that we'll be asking for consent agenda, just so that you are all understanding here. We got the minutes of July 18th, 25th, and the 1st. I'm not positive on the 18th, but the 25th and the 1st, I don't think Chris was here. As far as okaying the minutes. On the 18th, I'd have to see if, but those two I checked earlier this afternoon, I didn't see his name on the 25th or the 1st. Also, we're going to, be appointing Mark Kresge, Land Development Clerk, and Gabby Walker, Board of Health, and the Building Clerk, and we will be waiving the waiting period and approve wage authorizations for both of them. So if there are no holds on anything, I would ask for a consent, motion for consent agenda,
So moved.
unanimous consent.
Well, I can't consent to minutes I wasn't here for.
You just would be, yeah,
Yes.
Do you wanna abstain just from the minutes? Do you wanna abstain?
Yes,
from
please.
this? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we approve the unanimous consent agenda as for the appointment of Mark. I don't know. Kresge, Mark Kresge and Gabby Walker, as well as the wage authorizations for both of those individuals as well.
Second.
motion made and second, this is not including the minutes,
Correct.
okay? So this is just for these appointments. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, opposed, abstain, one abstention.
Alright, Mr. Chairman, will you entertain a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 25th.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve, what is that, like, the
July.
select board minutes of July 25th, any questions, any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's the one
Abstain.
you're at.
Abstaining.
No,
One
I
abstention.
thought you were absent from July 18th and August 1st.
No,
He wasn't at the 25th.
25th
Oh, okay.
and August 1st,
I'm looking at,
Oh, and August 1st?
yes.
That's, okay, I'll go back.
It was
to
the
next
18th that I
motion.
wasn't sure of. So-
the 18th,
If-
he was here, it
Okay,
says.
so everyone was here then on the 18th, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from August 1st.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve the select board minutes on August 1st, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
One. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from July 18th.
motion.
Second.
Second, sorry.
Thank you, motion made and second, any discussion?
Just taking it out.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passed, thank you. Okay. New business. The school committee, discussion of, we have 4 applicants for, 1 appointment. So, no, it's just the 2 of you here, you basically are a committee, do you, one of you wanna call yourselves to order and then?
I don't know that we need to.
I don't think we need to do
Okay,
that.
fine,
Because it's not a full
Yeah.
school committee.
okay. So that we will present it, turn it over to you first if you want. We have some copies of the only information that you have, so.
Go ahead, I had mentioned earlier that what we have here is a couple parents who are interested in, learning the process, going through the process, and we also have a couple teachers, people who are associated with education, somebody who's actually retired from the Wachusett School District, and basically, on paper, I'm looking at, an assistant principal, an elementary school principal, a teacher, a liaison, pretty much, has a background which, in many cases, you might be looking for a school committee. There's another individual here, Robert McDonald, who's, basically sends us a couple lines. Hi, I'm interested in serving on the Quabbin Regional School Committee. I'm a teacher with 10 years in public education, and I have 2 children attending Hubbardston Center School. Please let me know the next steps. And, we have a Mr. Afonso, who also, Joseph Afonso, who also, basically sent us a one-liner. I'm interested in volunteering for the Quabbin Regional School Committee. Looking forward to hearing from you on the next steps. And, a 4th person, Jesse Alexander. My name is Jesse Alexander. My contact information is below. Interested in volunteering on the school committee. Has school-aged children, people in the Hubbardston Center School. The daughter starting kindergarten, and like the opportunity to get more involved. This is basically what we have. Normally, we're lucky if we get 1 individual volunteering. Now we have a couple people, with, who gave us a little bit of information, and a couple other folks who are interested in learning the process and helping out with their kids in school.
And do they all understand that this is an appointment that only goes through June?
I assume they do.
And then
I mean,
they're free to-
that was written up in, I think, in the volunteer,
Yeah, all
request for
applicants
volunteers,
less
it was
than a year.
written up.
Yeah.
And
then-
also
Cause it's an
listed-
elected position, so they
Yeah.
then could run
Co-
if they were
Correct.
interested.
Correct,
They know
they would
that.
need,
So
the
that-
seat would be
So it's a temporary,
vacant
it's a
and-
temporary appointment.
Right,
until the next
exactly.
election,
Okay.
the next election.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, as we don't have any resumes or additional information on these folks, and I know a lot of them appear to ask for even the next steps, does it make sense for us to continue this to the next meeting to give us an opportunity to have Sandy and Tony contact these 4 people, make sure they're still interested in being appointed and getting their information so that we have an opportunity to review this? It's a very important position. We have several interested candidates. We wanna make sure we make the right selection, and some of us may even wanna reach out to the individual and have a conversation before the meeting,
Mhm.
and that would give everyone the opportunity to do so.
Are you under the gun for anything as far as filling the slot?
We've had the vacant seat, so the chair of the school committee would, obviously
And-
like us to have a full committee as soon as
Our
possible.
next meeting is
I personally worked with
October 3rd.
one
okay.
of the applicants, Dixie from Wachusett. She was a fantastic principal while I worked there, and I think with the budgeting and all of her different levels of experience,
This is the
without
SD's
seeing the resumes and, further information, I personally, out of, from what we've been provided, would think that she would be the most qualified to serve in the capacity.
Now, to your question, Heather, we don't have another meeting until October 3rd.
So it's 2 weeks.
Do you guys have any meetings coming up that are like dire?
No, the next meeting would be probably second week in October, right?
The sooner I think the better personally, because school has started, and that's when we have our subcommittees really get into full force and begin, and those, we've already signed up for the subcommittees we're gonna be on, and one of them will be starting in October, but our meetings are typically the second Thursday, so if they were appointed and could make it that quickly, I mean, they could potentially, whether we appoint them tonight or in 2 weeks, it wouldn't, I don't think make much
Are you okay, but if we put it off for 2 weeks, or if you have your druthers, you want us to decide tonight?
No, I totally understand why you might wanna put it off for a couple weeks, because there really isn't a whole lot of information here. And I would suggest that hopefully in the future, when we do have school committee vacancies, you just send the application out right away, or ask for a resume right away. So you ask for a resume from these folks say, one of them says, nah, I'm not really interested anymore, I don't wanna send my resume and whatever, we're down to 3. We could pare the process down, and we could also get some additional information, which will help us out.
Sure. Any other members of the board have any feelings one way or the other on this? Heather's suggesting that we wait till our next meeting.
I like to wait 2 weeks.
Chris, do you have any feelings one way or the other on that? Waiting?
Well, more information is better, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
if we can get more information on these folks, I think we can make a better decision about the candidates. and
Okay, it's pretty much unanimous then, we'll put it off until the next
If there's no hardships
meeting,
involved.
Debbie and Mark, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
In the meantime,
You can
Do you have a problem with that?
who will get the information for us?
No, I was trying to remember the town
I think
administrator
Sandy and
search
Tony,
committee
you guys,
meetings.
between the two of you, you guys can reach out to
I
each
was
of these
thinking the
candidates.
third-
And ask for their resumes.
Resume
some-
and if
yeah.
they have additional
The
information.
third is,
Okay.
And that we're gonna be
I don't
deciding on.
have those notes. I was gonna
October.
ask,
Mr.
First
Chairman,
meeting.
there's also a
Town
woman in the audience
Administrator
in the
search
front
committee
who
is
was raising her
October?
hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
October
see. Who had their hand up?
Oh, I did, but I
don't
think
have
you
that.
addressed it. I was going to ask, what your process would be in terms of responding to the people that were looking for the next steps.
Mm-hmm.
And is a resume sufficient information?
They'll be contacted and
But
asked to-
but do you have specific questions that would help narrow it down in terms of what the school committee is looking for a skill set?
So I think because it's a joint appointment and, 5 select board members and so forth.
Yeah.
to avoid having to bring 4 people in for an interview, cause it's a popular piece, it gives each of the board members and even the school committee members an opportunity to reach out to the individuals who submit their information to ask more questions or for more information if they have it. Plus it gives the applicant opportunity to say no.
Yeah.
Cause sometimes people are excited until they're like, wait a minute, what happens, we're appointed, oh, you want my resume, I'm not that interested.
I mean, can we ask for a resume in a position like this?
If they wanna be
I
appointed,
mean,
yes.
if we,
Yeah, why not?
when we run, we don't need to provide a resume. I'm
But
just asking, is it,
But you're not running for election, you're getting appointed. So any of our appointed positions, we generally require a letter of interest and a resume or something that
okay, good.
says why
Yeah,
and how.
just wanna make sure we can do it. Sandy, is the next meeting gonna be for the town administrator search committee on the 3rd?
No.
Okay. I couldn't remember the dates off my top of my head.
No.
Okay,
So then this will be postponed till October 3rd.
Very good.
Alright,
okay, thank you.
Thank you both.
thank you. Moving along, I saw Travis come in, so.
Yep.
Cruise Road discussion, residents regarding possibly reducing the speed limit while the road is being used as a detour. We've asked Travis to come and speak on this because of the, regulations, so
I think,
if you will,
I
join us,
think I was
Travis.
the petitioner.
Hmm?
My name's Mary Ellen Shaughnessy, you know me as Mel,
Yeah,
and I'm the one who initiated the petition and wanted to be heard on it as well. If you wanna hear from Travis first, you can.
well, it may affect what you have to say.
Oh, I think that,
This is a copy of the petition and the people who signed. There are 5 of them.
She's looking.
These are the people who signed. I had 5 of them in my.
I think we should hear from Travis first, though,
Okay.
it's significant, okay?
Okay.
Travis, can you give us, your understanding of this and why?
Well, quite honestly, I was asked to come because they said they had a petition for seeing if they could lower the speed limit. And then I kinda found out that it was during the detour. So I talked with Mass DOT today and the project engineer, and they're 2 weeks out of 25%, so he's gonna talk to the traffic team, and they'll be able to put it into the plans for the Wavensville Bridge and the detour to put up lesser mile-an-hour signs
To post,
to be posted, yes.
oh, okay,
That was the whole thing.
right, I would still read that into the record.
Okay.
Is that okay? If she reads that into the record?
I have additional information. I mean, it's wonderful that that's happening, and so it sounds like it's going to happen.
Yeah, he has to put it in front of them. The number of what it will be, I told him that 30 would probably be a good number for the road, seeing it's 40 now, so, he's just gonna run it by him. I wasn't gonna come out with a definite, it's gonna be 30, because they haven't said yes or no. I can put up advisory signs without Mass DOT to say during that construction period on the road to advisory of 30 miles an hour if I wanted to. So it's either way, it's better to have it in the plans, cause then they produce it all, so. I mean, he was in total agreeance of it, I don't see it not happening. Either way, it will
Mhm.
happen, so I really don't have a worry about this.
And that's, Travis, it's just temporary during
Yeah,
the
it's only
construction
temporary.
period.
Yeah.
Okay.
cause we arbitrarily cannot change the speed limit.
Right.
What did you say, I'm sorry?
She said this was a temporary thing, and then I said, cause we just arbitrarily can't change the speed limit on a state road. So,
Well, I was thinking of it more in permanent terms, but
that we can't.
if I can go through my information with
Well-
you. Okay.
Go ahead, you put the work into it, but.
Okay. Alright, so again, my name is Mel Shaughnessy. I live at 5 Cruise Road. My husband Mark and I have lived there for 39 years, and I thank you for your time this evening. I'll begin by reading the petition. The undersigned residents of Cruise Road are requesting through this petition that the Hubbardston Select Board implement our request to change the speed limit on our road to a posted 30-mile-per-hour limit from the current unposted 40-mile-per-hour limit. The recent repaving of Cruise and Thompson roads, combined with the proposed closing on Lower Williamsville Road for bridge demolition and reconstruction, will make Cruise Road into a primary detour for all traffic for an estimated 1.5 to 2 year period of time. The detour will significantly increase the volume of traffic and danger to children, residents, and livestock. There was, as you see by the petition, there was a unanimous agreement among all residents we spoke to for this action to be taken. We spoke with all households on the road with the exception of 3 residences, as despite our repeated efforts, they were not available to speak with. Cruise Road will be a detour for Williamsville Road for an extended period of time during demolition and reconstruction of the bridge at the lower end of Williamsville Road, and this will increase the traffic exponentially. The detour is estimated to be in effect for 1.5 to 2 years. Cruise Road is a 1.1 mile road in length from Williamsville Road to Root Road. There are 30 houses from beginning to end. There are approximately 14 children on the road. There are several residences with grandchildren who visit frequently. The Quabbin Regional School Bus travels the road 4 times a day with numerous bus stops. The 6:46 a.m. run makes 5 stops and has 7 children picked up. The 7:37 a.m. run makes 5 stops and 6 children are picked up. These times coincide with morning commuter traffic. The 2:29 p.m. run makes 5 stops with 7 children picked up, and the 3:39 p.m. run makes 4 stops with 5 children picked up. There is also a van bus whose schedule varies according to the needs of the children who utilize this service. Cruise Road is narrow and windy with several blind driveways at which children wait for the bus and residents enter and exit. I have spoken with the Cruise Road residents on the petition, including a state trooper, a member of our Hubbardston Fire and Rescue Department, and all residents agree that a posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour is reasonable and is in the interest of public safety. I've also spoken with our acting police chief, Ryan Kuchar, who was in agreement that a 30 mile per hour posted speed limit was reasonable and in the interest of public safety. Chief Kuchar indicated that compliance would be monitored and enforced. I've also spoken with our state rep, Donald Berthium, who supports our petition and request. I appreciate your time and consideration in addressing this crucial safety concern.
Any comments, questions?
I have a question. This is gonna super date me, as a townie. Did that road was used once before as a detour, long ago in a land far, far away, when the other bridge was done, when I was a kid, on, Burnshard. Now, I'm not saying I think this is a good idea for, well, it's because you guys just got paved and everything to drop it, and I'm not in arguments of it, but was it done back then? And granted, it wasn't paved. I mean, well,
What
it
year
was
was
paved.
that?
Again, when I was a child.
Okay. Well, we moved here in 1983, so I'm not asking you to date yourself.
No, it was in
but-
the 80s, for sure.
Mhm.
It was in the 80s.
I am also a Cruise Road resident.
Yeah.
We have been through 2 pavings.
Yeah.
I do not recall a detour, but we have been paved before.
'Cause-
And the challenge on Cruise Road is that there are, as Mel said at the beginning and the end, there are curves in the road, but there is approximately a half a mile of straightaway. I happen to live on the straightaway, and now that it's an absolutely beautiful, thank you to the highway department for an absolutely beautiful paving job. Very, very nice road work done. It makes it wonderful to bike and walk on. It helps to quiet the traffic noise significantly, but it also provides an incentive for speeding. And as we live in an old house and are right on the road, literally 15 feet off the edge of the road, I can attest to the fact that the speeding has increased significantly. But to answer your question, I don't recall a detour specifically, but I will say that of the 30 houses that Mel cited, approximately 15 have been built in the last 15 years. So there was significantly fewer residents, back in the 80s when we all
Yeah,
moved
it
here.
was that burn shirt bridge.
Okay.
So you had to cut down, cause you couldn't
Yeah.
go down Williamsville to go this way, you had to cut down.
Much less traffic, far fewer residents, and in that, as I recall, when the road was last paved, it wasn't paved in its entirety, so, yeah.
It's also a shortcut for Templeton residents, of which
Correct.
there have been many houses built on the Templeton
Yeah, on
side
that, when you come
Yes.
down
of
Route and
Hubbardston,
stuff
on that
like
road.
that, yeah.
So, a ton of traffic comes that way. And, you know, it does get, fairly busy. I've only been hit a couple times, I've only been closely hit a couple times.
Closely?
Somebody came back and actually looked to see if they hit me one time. But the bottom line is, it can be, a little bit of a dicey road. And I think it's in our best interest, if, Travis can pull it off,
Sounds like.
It sounds like he's going to.
Well, I think we got two different issues here, right? I mean, I think you're talking about a permanent speed limit change, which
Well,
I
I would
think
like
Jeff
to
is saying
see it
is not in our
permanent.
jurisdiction to.
Yeah, we can't, that's my understanding,
To take
we
on.
can't arbitrarily change a speed limit on a road.
I talked with TEC today to get a number, you're looking between 10 and 15 grand just in engineering to go through, cause you have to have it engineered, you gotta do studies on the road. And not only that, Mass DOT's gotta do it also, and sometimes it can bite you too, depending on, you might want it at a speed, and they come back and say, no, it's really this speed, and it could be more than what you're looking at, so then we had this issue, they were trying to slow it down at the rec field, and I remember before I got in here that they were trying to do that, and it was going to be that it was gonna turn on the town to be the negative of what the town wanted, so they didn't do it.
$15,000.
Well, that too, yeah.
So you
Travis,
have to watch when you play with that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So the road in question, Cruz Road, is that exclusively a town road or is state having jurisdiction on that road?
It's town.
It's town road.
But you can't, no matter what road is in town, it's not
Yep.
enforceable.
Yep.
You could, so in other words, if I put up a 20-mile-an-hour sign and
Yeah.
someone gets pulled over and says you were going over 20 miles an hour, and they'll see that the road wasn't, and they just throw it out.
Well, I was looking more specifically at chapter 9017C. So I guess the question is, how close are the houses to each other on this 1.1 mile of road?
That I couldn't tell you.
Okay. So the question so 17C would apply if the houses were considered thickly settled, and then
Yeah, I don't think they're as close as you
they're not within
think
100
they
feet of
are.
each other
Yeah.
for a period of time?
I don't see how they
So-
could with road frontage.
Yeah, you got
Our
200
zoning.
feet on the road, right?
Yeah.
Well, 200 feet on the road, but still house to house.
But
So
they,
next to each
you're
other.
not gonna be able to
Gotcha.
do that.
So that would be the only way that I could think of, cause under 17C, if the town does a local adoption on it, they can do it town-wide or if there's specific roads, and they can designate them as thickly settled.
Yeah,
And then
they
that
did
would be the
in
way around the
Boston.
engineering.
They did it somewhere else where they brought it down to 25 on roads that were thickly settled.
Yep.
We don't unfortunately have them other than, the school zone over here on Elm Street.
That's all I have for questions, thank you.
But for the period of time of the what was the 1 to 2 years period roughly? They will put the signs up, right?
Right now, they said either or, even if they said they wouldn't, which I don't see it ever happening, because he was very positive in the whole conversation I had with him. He was going to the traffic side of Mass DOT so they could put it into the plans for the bridge and the detour plans, so they would be there and it would be highlighted, so
So
I
at least
mean,
for that period of time, it can be done, it could be done. But
and when is that scheduled to begin, do you know?
it's gonna be probably next spring. It's 25% in a couple weeks, which they're moving right along on, which is nice. But they're only looking at about a year. So that's why we did go
Thompson Road was not
No,
in good
Thompson
shape.
Road, they didn't like Thompson Road.
No, no one,
Mike?
no one
Mike
is.
Stahl, 5 Lombard Road. Travis, when you say 25%, that's 25% design.
Yep.
Okay. Design complete this winter, advertised spring?
Most likely it'll be over probably the winter, depends on how they get their percentages in. Right now, in a couple of weeks, he said he should have 25% done on it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? You folks, do you have anything else? Are you okay with it?
Well, again, I would like to see it as a permanent thing, it's a 1.1 mile road and there's 30 houses.
Not arguing that, but we don't have $10,000 or $15,000. We're cutting money, we're not making money now, so,
So it's a budget issue.
well, it would be, but
But
it,
even
it's also,
still,
And it
that
wasn't
might
to take
blow up
the
in your
hit
face,
on it.
but
yeah.
speed might go
Yeah,
up,
what if
you know
they
what I mean?
increase the speed? You know, it's all based on the state's engineering report.
Yeah,
Actually,
So-
you can, excuse me, if you can literally go online, I have it here, you can print this page out, but this is right on Mass DOT's, and they said that the common misconception that people think of lowering speed on a road is gonna help, and it actually, a lot of times, and most of the time doesn't, because what happens is you get the people that follow it, and then you got people behind them that feel, cause they feel like they're comfortable at the speed that they're going, so they go around them, and they find that they have more accidents that way than if they were to leave it. And it's all right here in black and white, it's nothing that I made up, it's right here.
Appreciate that, Travis. So,
at least we can
Okay,
get
then.
forward while it's
While
a
it's being,
detour,
Yes.
yes,
Right.
with the extra traffic.
right,
Yeah, and I mean, and they're gonna have the signs up, if there's cars not following what it is, then just call the police and have them set up there.
well, actually, our acting police chief said that he would, be willing to monitor that and enforce it, so. I spoke with him twice about it, at field day the last time, so. And he would have come tonight, but, he's
On
off.
vacation.
Yes, off.
Away.
Away,
all set then?
yes, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for your time.
work on that. Thanks, Travis, appreciate you coming in. Okay, new business,
Our meeting already had. Our meeting already had.
item 3, Bowie Berthold, Bowie, yeah,
Always here.
Paper Crane Cannabis, to discuss changes to the, host committee,
Yep.
community, and Damon.
Damon couldn't be here tonight.
Okay.
He emailed me this afternoon and he said he couldn't make it.
Okay, so you wanna come up and join us? Sure.
Bowie Berthold, owner of Paper Crane Cannabis, 56 Gardner Road.
You
Sit
don't
here.
want
No,
it.
sit.
Oh, sit, great.
We're friendly, have a seat.
All right.
Thank you for your concern.
And I've simple request tonight. I want to add just a couple of items to be manufactured under our manufacturing host community agreement. Kind of stay in line with where the cannabis industry is going right now, and that is a very similar form of extract that's already we're already approved for under the host community agreement. It's called Keef, which is really just where you shake the flower and the crystals fall off, but the CCC wants your host community agreement to be very specific for what you're gonna be making there, and it's really just a byproduct of the bubble hash that we're already gonna be making. I wanted to add that, and then also for in the future, for any possible expansion, edibles as well. So we're gonna be making this concentrate that a lot of people are gonna be buying to put into edibles and other marijuana infused products, and it just seems logical now, since we're gonna be having it eventually, we may wanna also make them there at 56 Gardner Road, especially we're probably gonna be doing some improvements down the road. And so I can't make them if the host community agreement doesn't say specifically what those items are. And that is my request for tonight. And we're almost done with harvest right now. We're wrapping it up in the next week. Things are going great. We've had a great year. Looking forward to get everything into the building, dried, cured, processed, and we have some big orders to fill right now, so we're really excited about that.
And what was the first one that you said?
It's called Keef. It's really
How do you
just
spell that?
It's Kief.
Oh, okay.
That's the old Moroccan word for basically, it just is the stuff that when you're handling the plant, you know, like it's all food grade stainless steel tabletop prep when you're ever handling the flour. And basically anytime you're moving the flour around, you're moving around in containers, and there's THC crystal trichomes falling off it all the time. What a lot of companies do is they actually collect that at the end of the day, and that's called a Keef collection, and that's actually a separate byproduct in itself. It's not necessarily one of the hash extractions that we're going to be making. It's the most simple extraction, but you actually have to spell it out if you want to have that, you know, specific one. So I spoke to my Cannabis Control Commission investigator, and who kind of oversees the property, and he said you have to go back and have it added to the HCA in order to have it. And there's no additional machinery or anything required to actually collect this stuff. They're small screen boxes, kind of like flour sifters, basically.
I got questions.
Please.
Sure.
Okay, so you said you're just about done harvesting. This is your second harvest?
It's our second wave of harvesting.
Okay.
So we had an early wave mid-August,
Yeah.
and now so you can't have everything coming mature at the same time, or I would need a 35, 40 man workforce. So you plant things that mature quickly early in the season and then later. So our early stuff is done, it's binned, and we're still curing that now, and the full term plants are done.
Okay, so you haven't, from the first harvest, you haven't had sales yet?
Not yet.
Not
It's
yet.
still there's about a 3-month lag once you bring the flowers in. You have to dry them. It's about 10 days, 2 weeks, and then they go into 2 different curing stages. So closed container for about 2 weeks, and then a container where you basically do an air exchange in the container, and that's for about 2 months. So and then they sort of reach a density level and terpene profile that's when you start
Alright,
sending it
so
out.
we wouldn't have received anything from you for dollar amounts from our,
Not yet. Soon.
because there's no sale,
Yeah,
okay.
soon. And we've had a great year. We've got a lot of inventory.
Okay, so the only thing, I have 2 more questions.
Mhm.
The next one is, do you have to go in front of the planning board? I've seen you in front of the planning board for this, but do you have to change your special permit for this?
No, because there's no architectural additions to anything, so if it's on, basically we don't have to build anything to do it. So, I just had a special permit done to build 3 rooms for ice water extraction. This can take place anywhere, basically. It's literally shaking the flowers and screens. So because of that, there's no special permit required for it. There's no building required. All that's required is, according to my investigator, is acknowledgement on the HCA that we can make these products. If we needed to build something to make, to basically do the sifting, then we would, from what I understand, need to seek a special permit, because we would be changing something inside the building. So
Alright,
since
so
we're not,
just us,
just you.
basically.
Yep.
Okay, and then my last and final question is, are you current with all your taxes?
I think I owe a couple months. I've been meaning to
Did
get
you
in.
bring a check?
I have checks with
Okay.
me. Yes,
Just
I
saying.
do. Actually,
No,
can I
like,
pay them
no
now?
no
Sure.
offense, in most cities and towns, why would, you don't, like, if, for one of my buildings, I can't put a roof on if I owe excise tax.
Oh, great.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Stuff like that. So it's like, no offense, if I can't do it, then why can you?
Oh,
And
I'd be
you
happy to clear it up
should
right
be
now.
held to the same standards as the
Sure.
rest of us. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
all I have.
I have one question.
Sure.
Okay.
So you're in the middle of your first one's drying,
Curing.
curing,
Yep.
drying, right?
No,
Curing,
it dries.
Air to air dry is what you
It
call
air
it?
dries, yep,
Okay.
hanging on racks, it dries.
So meat cures,
Right,
right,
And
so
then-
this doesn't,
then it goes into a container, then it goes into containers.
at what part of the process are these crystals, when do you shake the crystals from when it's dry and complete? Or do you
All
do
along
it
the way.
as you're picking the crop?
Nope, so once it's dry, as we're moving basically the batches through,
Okay.
everything gets broken down to 15-pound batches.
Yeah.
So anytime you're handling the flour,
It's flaking off.
these keef crystals are flaking off, so if you move them in what are called screen boxes, which is
Mhm.
what everybody, which is what you move your stuff around in, then you're not losing anything. And it's also being captured through micron screens, so you're getting exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Whereas like if we're just doing it in tough totes or Tupperware trays, it's really just collecting everything at the bottom from, just like if you were moving around produce in your kitchen or something, you just get little leaf parts. So we would buy these boxes for moving things around, but then we would be able to just start catching and accumulating this stuff, and it's a
Yeah.
product that we can
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Right.
It makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, why waste? So
How do
are
you
there
use
are there
it?
people?
How do you use it?
Well, we can actually once we have it, then we can either add it into the other extraction process that we're going to be doing with the ice water. Some people just put it right in. The CCC just won't actually let me handle it as a standalone item unless it's stated on
That you-
the HCA
it's
that
part of
so it's kind of, even though it's a byproduct that's literally everywhere, we're sweeping off tables and destroying it right
Yeah.
now. So it's
So you're collecting it all the time then? Whenever you move it, you're collecting
exactly
it?
right.
Okay.
Yep.
So why throw something away that you can make money on?
Exactly.
Makes
That's
sense.
that's the point I should have made. Right.
Why sweep it up and toss it when you can turn
That's
it
it.
into profit?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else on the board have any?
And I do have
Comments
my
or questions?
checkbook here also, so I can clear that.
Sandy
up
will
tonight.
take your check.
Great.
Comments or questions, or feelings about this?
As long as he cuts a check, I'm fine with it.
So just something I wanna bring up is that when the community agreement was initiated before, there was, a good faith, type contribution that you had made, to cover our town council fees.
Mhm.
For us to have to draw up another legal agreement is a legal cost to us as well.
Sure.
Is that something,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
can-
I think we have to,
okay,
actually, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I think since it's cannabis, I think we actually are required to do that, so,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought it's in the agreement that you
Yep.
cover the legal end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's in the
Yep.
agreement.
it is,
I did
okay,
read
I knew it was for the
I
initial, I
brushed
didn't
over
know
it,
if it was a
I did see
continuing
something.
thing.
Don't hold me
Um,
to it, but I'm pretty sure I read that.
Okay.
Yep, and if you wanna check with KP Law and just ask them, it's it would be a very minor amendment.
Right.
It's literally just two products in, but lawyers are lawyers, they're expensive, so whatever it is, obviously, we're happy to cover it.
Okay, alright, and I know Damon wasn't here tonight to actually speak, but he was looking for the same type of agreement, the changes to his agreement as what you are requesting here.
If he has a manufacturing host HCA for over there, if so, I think that would be consistent with what most towns do. They usually, I can't speak for him, but
Okay.
they usually are pretty, I think they match a lot of times.
Okay.
Like terms have to be similar company to company.
So then maybe Damon should come speak for himself.
Or verify it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
contact him
I
just
will
to verify
definitely,
that.
yes, we'll definitely have to have him
Sure.
verify, cause I'm not sure, when he reached out to me the first time, it was kinda like he wanted a manufacturing added to his HCA, so I wasn't under the impression he had any HCA
And I'm not
under his
sure.
HCA.
Yeah, I know, I'm actually
So
not sure.
I will have to look into that as well. But yeah, alright, and you want to know what is owed? So I printed this
Pull this
out.
paper right
I
out.
Just
know,
now?
Yes.
this is
Alright.
No,
as
it's-
of today, so
You had a
Right.
question?
Yeah, Jocelyn Deneen from Cruise Road. I just had a question, Mr. Moderator, about whether the edible aspect has been addressed or will be addressed. He mentioned, two factors, the keef and then edibles.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep, so the edibles would be, it's adding it to the host community agreement now. I wouldn't be manufacturing any edibles unless I, basically brought some portion of my building up to food prep standards.
That's what I
And
was
that
gonna ask.
that would be a separate special permit, that would be a completely separate endeavor, but I wouldn't even be able to begin that process. I wanna begin it this winter, at least start getting it going, and without the HCA, I can't, without acknowledgement that I will be able to do it, I can't even begin a special permit for it.
Okay.
But the conditions for that would include a commercial kitchen, or are there, would you require additional square footage to put that in, or?
I have no idea. I mean, I would be going on at that point McCarty design build, and we would just be trying to allocate probably 200 or 300 square feet in one of my buildings
Okay.
for that purpose, and it would be like I said, it would be a separate special permit, and then also it would be a separate inspection. There's a whole process that we have to go through
Okay.
if we're gonna be manufacturing anything, so it's not. But the state, it's kinda goes back and forth, the state won't acknowledge like you even proceeding with plans for anything unless they know that the town, it's on your HCA.
So you're asking for two things, the
Two things.
keef and
Yep.
Thank you.
Now, you said initially that this has been a good year, so can we anticipate some kind of return
Yeah,
on this, cause it's been a while?
yeah, well, we're chugging along, it's, the market has changed a lot, there was a little bit of price compression, there's been a lot of cultivators coming online, but we're getting in there, we've begun our marketing push, we've aligned with a couple large, distributors for the flower, for the cannabis, also a couple large manufacturers. We're discussing a, licensing deal with an out-of-state brand also that might wanna start doing some stuff in one of our buildings, so all three of those things are gonna produce great revenue, but the key here is that now, we have the cannabis. So that's like the big thing, is we have the big chunk that now we have something to actually talk about.
You have something to sell.
Exactly, exactly.
Can't sell something that's not there. Do you know when abouts you're gonna start selling? You got a ETA on when this stuff's actually gonna start moving?
Well, I'm hoping, I have a meeting tomorrow morning for pretty massive, purchase, so, I've taken a few, it's basically we have, buyers come in, they look at everything, and then my CFO and their business people start kicking it back and forth, cause it's not usually as simple as we're just buying this, a lot of times they wanna buy a certain amount, then they also want a certain amount released, so they can, like this company in particular wants to manufacture a lot of products, they want 1,000 pounds for a bunch of products that would be, they have to investigate the yield of the flower, like it's not just a straight transaction, but if once they know they want it, then it's a big number, it's all, they're
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
how do they, I know they're not coming in there and sampling it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So what do they run it through a computer, it
So
tells you what the strain is?
Yep, so we test everything,
Yeah.
there's 10 testing labs in the state, so once we harvest everything, you have to break your harvest down into batches, all of those batches have to be individually tested for the state, for consumable flour, it's 15 pound, every 15 pounds needs an individual test, and that's for microbials, mycotoxins, pesticides, heavy metals, and TAC, which is total accumulated cannabinoids. tests.
Mhm.
So that's what we call the blood work.
Mhm.
So once you have your blood work back, which also takes time, and
Yep.
that's, you cannot send those tests in until that flower is completely dried and cured.
Right.
Those tests can't be done with any adjustment for moisture content, so it has to be 2% moisture in order for them to get accurate readings. That blood work is then your sheet, which you send around to the different buyers from the different companies, whether it be dispensary groups or manufacturing groups. If they like your blood work, we have good blood work so far,
Yeah.
then they come in. Then they look at everything. We are, even though we're, a small operation, we're a passionate operation, our standards are very high. Our cannabis was great. I know this drought was hard on everybody. It was great on us. I said this to the planning board. Cannabis will be a successful crop as climate change continues, because it needs very little, it does not need a lot of moisture, and the more moisture you have, the more problems you have, so we had a good year. But blood work is out on what we have in, and now it will be, we have to do a lot of batching and then testing of that stuff, but, we have 2 big companies and a third on deck who are just, basically waiting for all this stuff to come in. Like I said, we're kind of mid-harvest right now, so we should be done, really by probably middle of next week.
So tell me, you have a batch and your blood work comes back bad.
Yep.
Is there people out there that still buy the bad blood
Oh
work?
yeah, so
Really?
there's an avenue for everything, so if
Okay.
it's, that's a whole other conversation. I'd love to even, get into it sometime, but there's
I'll come down, I'm gonna come down and visit you.
anytime.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna show up, I'm not gonna
Sure.
do it. Oh, you
Yeah,
want me to?
Oh, no, well, Monday through Friday we're there, but
Alright.
a little heads up would
You
be
look a
great.
little busy today.
Yeah, we're busy. Again, we're just pulling
Alright.
them down.
So I will stop in one day.
Great.
You might wanna call ahead of time and schedule.
Then it's not a surprise visit.
It's not a surprise visit, but I know, they have security checks and everything that you have to go through, correct?
Yeah, but, like Sandy knows, I love bringing people in and showing them the farm, cause it's been a great
Well, you
transformation.
wanna do a background on me?
No background, just,
I've never been arrested.
just an ID check, that's it.
Okay. I have a town ID, so I'm good to go.
Mr.
So
Chairman?
then, you'll check with KNP?
I will reach out to KP and see, yes.
Would you entertain a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the manufacturing host community agreement for Paper Crane Provisions LLC to add the allowance for manufacturing of extracts, keef, and edibles with Paper Crane to cover the legal costs incurred by the town for review and amendment of the host community agreement, contingent upon payment in full of real estate taxes to date.
Second.
Okay,
Oh,
motion's
sorry.
made and second, I have a question, is that just Bowie's, or is this we including Damon?
Nope,
Oh,
just
no,
Bowie.
that's-
Damon's not
well,
here.
I wanted to make that clarification. Okay, so everybody understand that? It's not Damon's, okay, any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes,
Yes.
opposed, abstains, motion carried, and we'll have to check it on Damon.
Yeah, you can come back.
And I'm just gonna sneak out, write a check, and I'll just bring it back in and drop it to you right now.
That's
All
That
right?
would be great.
Great.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry for the delay, I've been very,
Busy.
sorry about that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So will you be contacting Damon for us,
I will.
okay, to get an answer to the question we had?
Who's Dan? The other place
Damon.
across the street?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would have to be
He's the
like,
one that's-
assuming we
He'll
hear
help us.
by our next meeting,
Why,
then
is he
we'd have to
trying
have
to
a
do it
separate
too?
motion. What,
He wanted, yes.
Well, that's what
I
Paul
know.
was saying,
Yeah,
that
well,
he
he
wants
has
to
to
do a
show up
similar
and
thing.
present
Well,
his case.
Right.
So why do we have to reach out to him?
well, we weren't certain if it's the
He was
same.
supposed to be here tonight.
And he
could
didn't
reschedule.
notify?
Oh,
and
no,
he
he-
had to
oh, he did.
he said,
Oh,
he
okay.
He was
emailed me
planning
this
on being here.
afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
reschedule.
Oh, okay, otherwise it would have been wrapped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roger that.
Okay,
Yeah.
move on to budget discussion with finance committee, so I guess finance committee, you gonna call your meeting to order and then come join us.
Yes, what
They
time
could
is
even
it?
come join us first.
First.
Yeah,
then
or yeah,
vote.
come sit and then call the meeting to order.
Well, what time is it?
7:26.
Was the question.
Why, is someone else
7:26,
coming?
Susan.
Susan?
No, no one else is saying
Alright,
this.
okay.
Taking up a lot of room tonight. It's me. Let's see if I can get.
Alright, I have, 7:26, call the meeting of the finance committee to order. And if my memory serves, this is our first meeting after the town election.
It is.
So we need, officers.
You didn't have
We
one, so
need
you
to
vote.
elect officers, so we need a chair and a vice chair and a clerk.
I will nominate Susan Rain for chair of the finance committee.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Better not be.
Longest
All in
member.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your vote of confidence.
You wanna continue as vice?
Sure.
Vice
I'll do
chair?
that, yeah.
Nominate
Okay,
Josh
thank you.
Lerner as vice.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Who would like to be the clerk this go round?
Ellie's, yeah.
Cause it is gonna be me. And you have excellent models of all the minutes I've done.
Nominate Chuck Reed.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Are you gonna be
Sorry-
gracious,
sorry,
Chuck,
neighbor.
and accept? Good, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Chuck. Alright, we're all organized now.
So who would like to start the discussion then?
I think Josh will start the discussion for us, cause he did some,
Sure, I did some
some
digging,
work on
yeah.
this.
So I initially we were dealing with a number, I think, of approximately $183,000 as a whole in our budget. In my most recent email thread with Ryan, who I think you guys were CC'd on, it looks like that hole is more about $133,000.
Oh, that's a change.
Based
That-
on,
but
yeah,
that's-
based on I guess new revenue that we sort of hadn't anticipated coming in.
I can,
yeah,
speak to that.
yeah.
So what happened was, there was revenue last year that should have been caught in our new growth figure and the assessors missed it. And so between that and, so Ryan said that was $33,000. So that brings us down to $150,000 deficit. And then we are projecting an extra $10,000 in additional revenue from motor vehicle excise than what he had budgeted. So that, we're seeing now about $140,000 deficit.
What is the
Okay.
basis for the assumption of the increase in 10K?
Because it was, he estimated because what the, thank you. The projections, everybody was saying because of COVID and, the problem with buying new vehicles and everything that they thought the amount of excise revenue that came in would be less this year because there wouldn't be as many new vehicles to be able to be purchased, and that would lessen the revenue, and that was not the case. Our numbers were still up there, so
So he revised the
he
estimate
is saying, yes, he's
Okay.
saying that that's a revised amount.
based on the actuals from the.
Based on what we
alright.
actually took in for FY '22, yes.
What was that amount again, Sandy? What, 143K?
That was 10K and
It
then
was
the
10,000
33K.
additional revenue from motor vehicle
Right.
excise. So we now have an outstanding deficit of about 140,000.
140
Mhm.
deficit, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, looking at the budget, I think there were three ways of trying to approach how we handle that $140,000 hole. One would be 100% cutting what is in our current town meeting approved budget. The other was doing a 2.5 override, which I've later learned that it looks like the timing of which we have sort of passed that for this fiscal year. And then the third option was sort of a 50-50 combination of the two, where we try to achieve in the order of $70,000 worth of cuts, and then do an override for another $70,000. In light of the fact that we can't do, there just isn't enough time in the schedule for potentially trying to pass an override. What Ryan had mentioned, and I think makes sense, is to use one-time sources from free cash as a way of trying to, coupled with cuts, to do to sort of make up that hole. So, for example, approximately $70,000 to $90,000 worth of cuts, and then, I don't know, it'd be $70,000 to $50,000 worth of free cash usage, which would be about, I think 10% of our free cash total. We have about $500,000, I think, is what Ryan had mentioned. So we'd be using 10% of that. That obviously has a lot of problems. First, it is using a one-time source of for sort of a recurring cost. But the second thing is that also we have to bear in mind that for the following year, by trimming our budget and using free cash, we'll have much less free cash next year. And so, at least it is my opinion that if we go that route, we really will need to gear up for getting the town to perhaps approve a 2.5 override for next year's budget. Which then, to get into that as a possibility, talking with the school committee and asking the school committee, our school committee members, to go to the QRSD administration and see if the administration can at least try to forecast their budget for, say, the next few years. Because if we do an override for fiscal year 2024 just to meet that number, it's going to be very difficult if we need to do an override, a year later or 2 years later, depending on sort of the subsequent assessments. And so utilizing sort of a more longer term strategy to, if we're going to try to put, need an override, to at least use that override to hopefully help us for a few years as opposed to maybe a single year.
And we already know next year is gonna be worse than this year.
That's right, yes.
That's a guarantee, so.
That's right, cause
Right.
we're starting from
Higher
the
number.
place where we're in a hole to
Yeah.
begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
And you also need to keep in mind that many of the unions in the Quabbin Regional School District are up, their contracts are up at the end of this year, so they'll all be voting new contracts, which may mean they're looking for more money as
Well,
well,
how about they get
so.
0, 0, and 0, like I used to get when I worked for the state, because budget was tight. Does that ever happen with school teachers?
I honestly don't know.
So I had
Okay.
tried to look at, based on the town meeting approved budget from June, where cuts could be made without affecting services. I was most recently able to come up with about, say, $80,000 worth of cuts, where a lot of it was trying to trim increases in certain things, so that at least it would be level funded and not, decreased from the previous year. Looking at certain, for example, trying to trim our reserve fund, legal expenses, things that we may not use the entire amount each year. It obviously puts us closer to, the edge, if you will, in each of those, but at least it doesn't affect like wages or services for the town. And I was able to come up with approximately 80,000, or give or take, for that. And then the question would be using free cash to make up for the remaining, say, 60,000.
What, I think Sandy, you had worked in the last meeting, Sandy had worked, I think, with a couple of the department heads to talk to them about different ways to do cuts, to just your point there, Josh, avoiding laying off anybody or cutting back hours, cause that impacts services directly.
So some of the recommendations, and I had spoken with Ryan obviously about some of this, was in his budget for FY '23 was a full-time building commissioner. We see that as no more. So we have hired a part-time building commissioner, and so we are saying that there's $20,000 in revenue there that we can apply to the budget that would not, instead of a building commissioner on a full-time basis. There is also, because Worcester Regional Retirement, they send us an assessment every year. If we pay that upfront, July 1, we save a little bit of money. So there is $3,000 there that we did not have to pay because we had the money, we were able to pay the entire assessment in July. So there's $3,000 there.
What was that assessment?
Worcester
The
County.
Worcester Regional
Oh.
Retirement Annual
Okay, alright.
Assessment.
Yeah.
They give you a prompt pay discount
Yeah.
I remember Ryan mentioning.
for
that, yeah.
retirement. Okay.
They need money too.
Yeah.
Need
Um,
it fast.
yes.
So
And
we
then,
the 3K.
Yep.
Okay.
They make it back in
he
a
also
business.
mentioned that he had, or you collectively had upped the reserve fund this year to 35,000. So he is recommending going back to the 30,000, so that frees another 5,000 for the budget.
Cindy, do you happen to know what we've expended thus far? Oh, that's, did you say reserve or legal?
Reserve.
Oh, sorry,
That's
my
FinCom
brain's already
reserve.
mixing them, I'm so
We
sorry.
have 9,000 sort
Yeah.
of
So go back
Do
to
you have,
vote on.
yeah, let me just change the subject briefly, do you have the $9,000 transfer request?
I do. I don't have it,
Okay,
but I know that it needs to be done.
okay,
But yes, I'm aware of that as well, so
okay.
So you want the reserve fund to go back to what?
it would go back to
30.
It's
30.
gonna go back to 30, but it will immediately be cut by
By nine.
$9,000.
Giving us 5K there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I wanna say that I know that there have been years when we have used at least like 20 or so
That's
at
right.
the end of the year. And
That's
usually
right.
in July, for extra snow and ice budget has been one, you know, so hope for a mild winter, that type of stuff. But I know that we've gone into the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then on Ryan's recommendation as well, to cut 15,000 from each of the fire, DPW, and police departments. So I reached out and I've asked them, police has some wiggle room because they are not able to hire a position. Ryan Kuchar is serving as the interim police chief, and so they cannot fill his sergeant position until he has been appointed as the permanent police chief or goes back to that position, but that has to be held open. So there is some funding there. So for the police department, it would not hurt as much as some of these other departments, is what I'm saying. It's gonna hurt, and each one of these cuts is actually representing salaries that are going to be cut. I mean, when we're talking a building commissioner, you know, cutting his time in half, and because of the situation, there happens to be a police department vacancy at this time, but there's circumstances that are causing these rather than, you know, just not filling a position because we don't have the money.
I'm sorry, can you tell me again what the nature of the cuts are for the fire department, proposed cuts for the fire department and the DPW?
Did I
And were
bring
the, Josh,
those
were
out
those cuts
here?
that you had anticipated?
I had put less in for fire,
Okay.
for fire and.
I know
In
that-
what line
more.
item for fire and DPW?
So for example, we could reduce fire call wages by $1,000, it still represents a $1,200 year-over-year increase, so there is still a slight increase, it's just not nearly as much, that's only $1,200. If we level fund vehicle maintenance, that's another $1,000, so it's level funded from the previous year, but at least it's again
Right,
not
but these are,
cutting it.
this is a $15,000 cut,
Right, so I did not get 50, yeah, so I
yeah,
got 25,
Let me
Where were
just
the-
see if this
from
is on my
DPW,
desk.
I took out 15 from services, which is still
1,500?
15,000,
Oh,
which still represents a $5,000 increase from the previous year, and then $10,000 in road and maintenance equipment,
okay,
which is a decrease. That's a 6.3% decrease. previous
Okay.
year, so that's 25,000 from that.
Okay,
So I think my concerns with that would be, you know, like with the fire department, I don't think you can really decrease the on-call wages, right? Cause at the end of the day, if they overspend, they're gonna come back anyway, cause if there's a call,
Mhm.
I think we all want someone to show up.
Right, so it's still an increase, it was still a $1,200 increase over last year, so I don't know what, you know.
Well, don't light things on fire and we'll keep the calls down. But you have the on-call, the equipment one, I mean, just like everyone else, everything is astronomical. So if anything goes down, they're paying 3 times the price of what they paid last year for it. So even with
Right.
the increase, it's not gonna be sufficient.
So when I asked Chief Hayes for his recommendations, this is what he suggested. One of his full-time firefighters is currently out on FMLA because she had a baby. And so FMLA, we don't have to pay her during that time, we have to hold her position. So he's estimating about $3,000 there from wages can be used for the budget.
Okay.
He also suggested taking $2,000 out of the call wages because he has some funds in a training account that can help with the cuts. There again, if we have a lot of fires, I don't know what you do. He also suggested taking money out of medical supplies on the ambulance, taking $2,000 from there. I'm not sure if that was an increase from last year and we're level funding, but that was his suggestion there. As well as fire department supplies.
I don't like any of this.
I don't either.
I don't like any of this.
No.
This is sounding
cut has to come
dangerous.
someplace,
It
this
does
has to come
sound
someplace
dangerous.
else.
Start having
some 5K
This
races
has to
for
come
the fire
from
department.
somewhere
There
else.
you go.
Sorry?
But while I'm
5K races.
while I'm hearing this though, I would like, whenever we do finalize some of this, I'd like this be listed so that at the town
Right.
meeting,
Yep.
we
Right.
read it.
That's right.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, yeah,
Because with the understanding and telling them also next year's gonna be worse,
that's right.
but this is what
This, yeah, this
happened
is
as
what you're
opposed to
looking
just
at.
giving them a large amount. I think they need to hear it's upsetting us, so
Yes.
That's
They
right.
need
Oh,
it
I
upsets-
agree.
They need a line
I
by
agree.
line.
I hope it
It needs
upsets
to be
I
them
agree.
because
sent home to them.
Yep.
And the following year's worse, so
They're still using
if you
one-time
deny a
sources
2.5
too, yeah.
override.
so if we can
Oh,
just
I
keep
agree.
that
We
in
gotta
mind
raise our
when
Oh,
we,
yeah,
base
yeah,
tax.
yeah.
when we
have to
decide, let's
raise it.
have this all listed and make
Yep.
sure it's read off.
Yep,
Yep.
This is
Yeah.
agree,
terrible.
yeah.
Another place he suggested is the call fire wages, the Sunday coverage.
No,
He said not all don't cover all the Sunday shifts in the year.
no,
How you pick and choose which ones,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
no.
The problem with all this is
No.
it has to do with
Let's-
safety.
It does
No.
have to do
And
with
let's-
safety.
Josh, where did your other cuts come from?
That was a lot of them. So I had factored in as well the building commissioner thing, cause Ryan had emailed me that as
Yep.
well, so
Yeah.
that was like that was 20,000 of the
Yes.
80,000 that I had come up with, so that
Mhm.
was a good large chunk of it.
And
Yep.
the important thing to note with that, it's not that I think we went down in the quality of services. I think we were able to find someone with enough experience and knowledge that part-time would be sufficient because he's able to look at things, you know, and know what they are right away without having to spend lots of time to get acclimated up to speed.
Yeah, he doesn't need a driver.
Doesn't need a driver.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere near that.
That's
Um,
secondary problem.
But
Yeah.
No,
But
we won't go there.
I think, you know, I think the consensus between Jeff and Sandy when they hired the individual is that he would be able to serve the town well and would be able to do so on the part-time basis as opposed to
Yep.
what we had anticipated before because of the pay is that we were gonna get someone who was slightly greener and wouldn't have as much experience and therefore
Yeah.
things might take
Right.
longer for them to
Yeah.
acclimate and so forth.
Right,
So
Right.
this
okay, so
person
this
brings,
is, this is a better hire, so this is good.
yes.
Okay, great.
So it's not, we're not necessarily
Mhm.
harming the town by
Right.
going
Right,
with
it
part-time
just,
in this case.
yeah, we just got lucky,
Yes, we
Pretty
did.
much.
yeah.
Yeah, cause it was wasn't it his recommendation to do part-time? Or was it recommended
Who
to
the-
him to go
Who
part-time?
the interviewer?
No,
he's a retiree from
So you-
yes,
another
and
city.
we hired as part-time,
Oh, okay.
because we knew,
He didn't have an
So-
issue anyways.
Yeah, so you advertised for part-time.
we
Yeah.
did, because
Yeah.
we knew that these cuts had to come out
Yeah.
somewhere.
Alright, so what else did you have for us?
I mean, no one's gonna wanna hear snow and ice budget, but taking some money out of there, and then hoping, like I said, that it is a mild winter.
So snow and ice, so here's the
would
important
be-
thing to know.
Yeah.
Legally it has to be $1 or about the same, but can't be less than the year
we can't-
before.
so then we can't even do that, I did not
Because
know.
otherwise you can't run a deficit. So as long as you get the exact same amount or $1 more, we always used to go
Did you-
$1 more,
did you not
you
level
can run
fund
a
it?
deficit.
No, I actually had cause I think it was level funded, and so I think it,
Oh, I
I decreased
see.
it, yeah, so I
Okay.
decreased
So-
it.
So it
That
has
one
to
you
be the
can't do,
same
alright.
or $1 more?
You
Cause
gotta,
I was
most
hoping,
towns do
I was
like a
hoping if
$1
we
more
didn't, I was
rebate.
hoping if we
What
didn't.
were you gonna
See, I don't think that
10,000
last year was that
Alright,
bad.
so we're,
of
so
a
alright, so we gotta
snow
find
and ice
difference.
year.
$1 more from what you budgeted,
Oh, $1 more.
Oh.
Yeah.
not from what you expended.
And
Well, I think 'cause, yeah, we've
it
approved
wasn't a
reserve
bad
funds for
winter,
extra
but
snow.
we had a lot of storms last
Yeah.
winter, and so they were out constantly
Yeah.
sanding and treating
Yeah.
roads or
Yeah.
salting and treating roads. So I know they used their
Yes, they did.
budget and then
Well,
some
why
last
can't they go
winter.
back to, instead of using all salt, go back to sand, salt mix? Cut
think
the
that's
salt
for-
by 50%.
I think that's for a combo outside the scope of today's discussion.
Yeah,
That's-
but,
yeah.
you know what I mean? I really like to see.
Travis will tell you it's more expensive, he's come and talked to us
For
a
sand
bunch of
than it
times.
is for salt?
Because of the cleanup and everything else afterwards, it's all,
Well, you got two sweepers sitting there doing nothing.
He'll fill us in, because we usually bring him in, just before winter kicks in, to
Alright.
give us an idea
So
of
I
what
mean, I'm
shape we're
green at
in.
this, so I don't know all the insides, that's
he'll
why.
explain it all.
I mean, I was
what did
looking
you-
at, I was looking at large chunks of things where if it's not used, it rolls into free cash, and so something like that, I was not aware of that, like, you know, law regulation, but trying to, again, you know, like hoping to get lucky with where stuff that if we don't use the full budget rolls into free cash, that is where I was sort of looking to cut. I mean, other things is, you know, under the, recreation, cutting $2,500, which still would then increase that line item of services and expenses by $1,200, so it would be a $1,200 increase, but is still we'd approved, I think, a total of $5,000, and cutting that in half to $2,500. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and say these are something that I'm happy about, but just trying to come up with that number. Then the other option is using more free cash, but that I think is very dangerous, and then
Yes.
also stipulating to our voters that, you know, that it really is not, that's not something you know.
Well, the problem with that is that it makes it look like we really didn't have a budget problem after all. That's the problem with it, and that's why I don't
And it
want to
hurts-
do it.
Hurts you, what, a year
I want
later?
it,
I think we're gonna have to do it no matter what. I think
I'm
there's
in
gonna have to be
agreement
some
there.
so we
free
might
cash
have to do,
usage.
we might have to do some, but
We're never gonna be able to cut 130,000,
Right.
I don't think. I mean, without
well, we
marked.
can,
Yeah.
but we are thinking
It's,
perhaps
but counting on
we could not.
override next year, it's,
Yeah, you
I
can't
mean,
count on an override either.
You can't, except what I thought was interesting was that I didn't expect the vote to approve the, yeah,
Well,
so,
I-
but
Well,
what
when you
that
get
tells
hundred and twenty
me,
people showing out, I don't
no,
think
but
they
it was
would much.
So I wanted
organized,
to-
and
yeah,
so
could I-
I'm one, yeah.
Oh, so
Oh,
to
go-
speak to that though, I think
ahead.
the problem is that there's a dissociation between that
Yes.
vote and the budget, because
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
voted
Correct.
on a number, who knows what that, you know, but now is this next special town meeting that is gonna actually vote on reconciling that number.
Right.
And there's gonna be two different turnouts, I would imagine,
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
Right.
And I think that's problematic for us, whereas perhaps next year, if we did have the school as part of the budget, the QRC assessment with an override, then at least you have sort of, I guess, a fair vote, in terms of everybody showing up for voting what they wanna vote for, but, that I think was a problem that we faced this time around.
How about, items that were approved in capital plan, is there anything there that can be put off a couple years? Like the excavator for the highway department?
Chuck can talk to that.
They did?
In the bond.
But that goes to, what Pete just brought up, the difference between essential services
Yeah.
and non-essential services.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we can possibly look at non-essential services, and no one wants to cut anything.
Right.
But I think it's definitely, we don't wanna cut essential services that involve safety.
Right.
But if we get into things such as, and I'm not suggesting we go into these things specifically, but things like recreation, dare I say senior services, things that are non-essential
Right.
for safety of school buses, road work,
Police,
police,
fire, highway.
police, fire,
That's right.
highway.
And
And,
administration.
you know, and it's gonna hurt somewhere, but I'd rather have it hurt, at the rec field than
Yeah.
someone's house burning down
Yeah,
and someone
Roger,
dying.
I'm behind you
And,
100%.
and so I'd be,
The
like
only-
to look at
the only problem
non-essential
with that-
services.
Sorry, the only problem with that is that the majority of our non-education budget, like, you know, you could eliminate the entire, you know, council on aging budget, that's
And it
like
wouldn't- yeah,
20,000,
wouldn't do
yeah,
it.
that,
Yeah,
that
wouldn't do
doesn't
it.
budge very much.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our non-education spending, the majority of it does go to fire and like safety issues, and so that's where, and
Right.
DPW, so that's unfortunately where there's maybe
Yes.
room.
Did Travis give you a list at all?
He did, I didn't print it out, his was very much, you know, 1,000 from this account, 1,000 from that account, just kind of across the board.
Okay.
No details as far as anything goes,
Did it
but
come up to that number?
Ask him for some details,
Did they
yeah,
buy
I
all
can
their
ask him.
because we're making a list anyway, but ask him for some details.
Did they buy all their equipment from the capital plan? I know there was an excavator and there was a truck also.
No. What happened was some of that stuff it was his truck, I believe, that got paid for through ARPA, right, the first round?
No.
It was a
The dump
tr-
truck?
We didn't buy
a
No.
truck with a
During
plow
that.
on it.
No, I don't think so.
No,
We
that was
didn't buy
the one
a
that got
truck.
No, that
totaled.
was in the capital plan, I
The only
thought.
truck I remember
We bought
in the
that,
discussion was a fire truck of
We
some
bought
sort.
something else for him.
Yeah,
which
what
I
was
don't
the,
remember. I
what
don't
was
know.
the thing that you purchased
blower.
before?
The
Blower.
blower.
Okay,
Not
never
blower.
mind.
We did.
Yes, and then we had the insurance claim for
Right,
the
the
lost
other thing.
truck.
Yeah.
So no, I don't, has he purchased yet? I have not seen bills for any of these things, they may be ordered,
You can cancel
They
an
had the
order.
mini excavator up at Field Day.
okay. Yes, 'cause that came through, but,
So then the only thing would be the plow truck.
There was it was like a 1-ton pickup truck,
yes,
which was 50 or 60K.
yeah,
With a plow.
with a
and-
plow
Which
on
was
it.
for him, Travis.
yes.
Yeah, what's he drive now? He drives a SUV, right?
Yeah, it's like a 2000
I don't care what year it is, but
SUV that has,
Well, in the winter, he also
Miles.
plows, so.
but he does
that's-
plow in the winter time.
yeah. But
So that's
he
what-
jumps in another truck that's available, not,
Well, that's what I read, it
Well,
was
they're
truck.
fully staffed right
It's not
now
like he's
too,
buying a
so
truck
I
for
don't know if
himself,
there
he
is another
plows
truck
in the winter,
available.
so
Yeah.
he's one of the drivers and needs and we need the vehicle.
yeah, but he's never
Well-
had a vehicle to plow, his own personal. So, what you're telling me is, he used to jump in a truck that was available with a plow on it to go plow the roads. He
That's-
never had his own.
No,
No.
this isn't his we're not buying
He
his
doesn't have a
personal
personal,
vehicle.
No,
his
he-
vehicle is a white, van type thing, which goes with the DPW, okay?
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Because he's the, head of the DPW.
Right, that's his company vehicle, that's what
But
I'm
he does
talking
not
about.
have a truck that is his,
Yeah.
For his
but
personal
he is a
use.
driver
I don't
during the
mean
winter.
personal use, that's,
During the,
I
he
meant
is a
during
driver during
business
the winter
hours.
and plows.
That's
Well,
what I meant.
So,
Is this truck intended to replace a different truck?
Oh, I'm sure, yes,
Alright.
yeah,
Alright.
we
San-
don't just purchase additional vehicles around,
Well,
Yeah,
that's,
that's, I didn't know.
I don't have any
because-
visibility, so. I don't know.
yeah,
Tree warden line,
yep,
so 5,900, first of all, do we pay anything, who's the tree warden, is it Travis?
Jeff Bork,
Oh, okay, elected, appointed,
Yeah.
does he get a stipend?
yes,
He does get a stipend, is that 5,900 a stipend, or is that
No.
5,900 stipend plus
it must be stipend
expenses to remove
plus,
trees?
because his stipend is like 3,500, 4,000,
Or was stipends that high and then he has 1,900 to remove trees?
for,
it's not cheap.
I don't know.
I know,
Mhm.
but 1,900 is not gonna even get you a tree.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
I was just thinking.
Neither is 5,900.
Well, what I was thinking is we figure out whatever the stipend is, take the stipend out, anything he didn't expend this year so far, we just say we can't proactively take down trees, and we're gonna have to do them on an emergency basis and go to the reserve fund, and that'll give us a couple $1,000. I'm trying to grab.
Anyway, we can grab, that's what we gotta do.
Well, the cold
Non-essential.
hard truth is that the cuts are gonna have to hurt.
They're gonna
That's
hurt.
just the way it is.
But
If
you
you get
don't-
nickel and dime our
Yeah.
way to $140,000.
That's a lot of money.
Well, I can at, $200, but at 4,000 I could.
I mean, I totally agree with you, Sue, because in the same sense, none of us wanna hurt anybody.
Right.
But in the same
But we're
sense,
gonna.
somebody's gotta get hurt and they gotta know that,
That's right.
that we're not making this up. It
That's
hurts
right.
to, so that we don't wanna cruise through this, we can't anyway.
You know, the only other option, and I don't like to say this because it affects a lot of people, but we start reducing the number of hours that our town offices are open. So instead of my working 35 hours, I go down to 32, the town clerk goes down to 32, and you pull it that way, and then the townspeople do not have availability as much as,
Yeah, but then you're still
I mean,
you're
we're
hurting our
bare,
employees.
we're bare bones now, so
So
to go any
they're not gonna
less-
like it, cause they're already paying a certain tax rate, and now you're cutting services even more at that tax rate that they've been paying.
But we're barely functioning, I mean, for example, my budget, I asked for my supplies budget to go up a little bit this year because postage increased. I mail out tax bills and excise tax bills and accounts payable checks, and I go through about $20,000 in postage a year. And I had to ask for that increase because stamps went
they
up
went up.
2 cents. It's things like that that we can't even cut that
But
anymore.
that's beyond our control.
Right, but
And
those are
anything beyond our
things that,
control, we can't.
right,
But I would be also cautious when we're talking about staff.
oh,
Cause
I
I know
agree.
Ryan felt strongly about this and I
Oh,
do too.
know.
Because even if you cut a few hours, to some people, that could mean, well, I gotta go to another job.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
And all of a sudden,
I
they
think
start,
that's-
they start leaving the ship. You
I
know,
agree.
I
we need to
personally
keep the
think there's
people we
equipment
have,
out
so.
there, it's something that can be put off being bought or replaced a year or two if we have to. It's gotta be, there's gotta be something out there.
But it won't be put off for a year or two because we aren't gonna have the money to get it in a year
Right.
or two, given the current
That's
Well,
just the
position.
thing.
So that's the reality.
Well, it's
I
better
mean-
not to have the equipment than not to have the body to operate the
Right.
equipment.
They would just send them out with shovels and rakes.
It saves laying off a body.
What
You
about,
know, I don't
uh,
wanna see anyone laid off
I don't
either,
either.
don't get me
Uh,
wrong.
No,
I just-
I hear you, but, something's gotta happen, so you either gotta look at equipment or personnel.
Katie?
Well, we're also coming up with an increase for our new town administrator, aren't we?
Not necessarily,
Not necessarily, it depends on what they
what we
have.
work out.
or.
We don't wanna say too much, cause that's active enough. Katie, economic development, can you refresh my memory, do you remember what that 4,000 was for?
Technically it's to buy signs.
The what?
Can we
I'm
take
sorry,
that?
and
Why
to-
signs?
To buy
Signs
signs.
and
What
to
account is
use
it?
Economic development.
$1,000 was to pay an intern, which we've never actually,
Yeah,
Kinda had one
I
for a
could
little
see
while, but-
1,000, but I mean, that signs, I spoke
That's
about that
gotta go.
today.
That's gotta go.
I don't know, I would say we could take that 4,000, I know it's not ideal, but I'd rather not have signs up
That's
than
right.
have to talk about.
You better get on it, cause there's a call being made about it, I think, pretty soon.
The signs?
yeah, the welcome to Hubbardston at the
The
edge
wooden
of
signs
towns.
for
Yeah.
entering town?
Yeah.
Those, cause there's only 2 of them up, right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
only two,
And it's
and,
projected for
wanted
4.
more?
Yeah, 4.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
the.
But that could save us 4,000.
They can
But
wait.
also,
What
hold
were the
on,
signs we
hold
paid
on,
for in
hold
Ottawa?
On 60, oh.
those signs are
The
gonna
electronic.
generate money,
That's the
so,
electronic.
okay, it's just because of code and everything else, it set it back, to getting sponsors for those signs, so those signs are gonna be sponsored, generating money. So,
should be,
if you
yes.
wanna take away, something's gonna generate income, go right ahead.
Well, the whole point of it was, originally, was to get the sponsors sponsoring to
Yeah.
pay for the damn signs.
Yeah.
And it just happened to start right at COVID.
Right at COVID, and it
So
screwed
it
everything
just
up.
screwed
Yes,
everything
it
up,
certainly
or
did.
else it would have paid for itself, and we
Yep.
would have had signs,
Yep.
and they would be generating money for the
Yeah.
Economic Development Committee, so we wouldn't even have to ask for it.
Well, then that
Right.
would be true next year also, so why don't we just delay that for a year?
Mm-hmm.
That gives everybody a year to get sponsors, and then we're all
I'm-
cool.
I'm fine, I think it should have sponsors is my whole thing.
Right.
I'm all about self-generating money.
Is our goal here tonight to go through the budget line item by line item and
Well-
find $140,000?
We're gonna be
Well,
here
wait,
for a
somebody,
while.
somebody's
So,
gotta
yeah,
do
seven,
it
not
sooner or
even.
later. I don't know if
Well,
we
it's gotta
wanna
be
do
done
it.
before the special
It's
town
gotta be
meeting.
done, and I don't know who's doing it,
I-
who's doing it.
I would like Travis
Why can't
and
we
the
get all the
fire
department heads here, all at
to-
once, with all of us?
to get, cause some of these numbers aren't bad, okay? The ones about fire supplies and stuff like that, medical, ambulance, medical supplies makes me nervous, cause I don't want the ambulance showing up to my house with nothing but freaking Band-Aids, you know?
Well, then maybe we need to ask specific.
That's what I mean, I would like them to refine this
Okay.
and to make sure that it's not gonna be detrimental to these items, and the same with DPW. Because if they can, and this is where we can cut it from without cutting people, because if we start cutting people a couple hours here, a couple hours there, they're gonna leave, and we're gonna screw
Mhm.
ourselves.
Yeah,
I don't wanna touch that.
plenty of
Would it be
opportunities
possible
out
to
there.
look at items in our budget that were not fully used from previous years that sort of rolled into free cash, to sort of look if we could almost revert back to whatever that number had been as a way of
Right.
it cuts
Give us
our future
actuals.
right. It
Give
cuts
us
our
some
future
actuals.
sort of like free cash, but if we didn't even use all of what was budgeted for supplies in a previous
Right.
year, then cutting it down to a level close to that is obviously taking a risk, but at least is not based on the information we have, effectively cutting anything. It was just
Right.
cutting free cash for next year.
Right.
Just keep in mind when you do that, you start generating a culture where departments
Nope,
don't turn
yep.
things back. I call it famously
Yes,
binder
right, if you
clip
don't use it-
problem.
Use it or
Right,
lose
if
it.
you're right,
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
right, but we're in special times right now, so.
What, Sandy, unemployment, so we self-insure, right?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, over the past several years, have we had a lot of claims on unemployment?
Since I've been here, the 5 years I've been here, the first year I was here, we paid out quite a bit in unemployment. Since then, no. Even through COVID and all that stuff, that was taken care of with COVID. I have a bill now for $480, which will be the first one out of this fiscal year that I've had to pay for unemployment.
Part-time firefighter?
It is a part-time, no, she used to be a part-time building clerk,
Okay.
left a long time ago, but you have a
Delay.
couple year threshold. So, yeah.
I'm just wondering if we have the ability to reduce that even by 5 or 10,000, having the fact that we have reserve. Most
We
towns,
could.
unless we know of something that's coming and unless we're planning to cut, you don't use a lot of those funds.
Right.
And
What's-
if you do, the 15's not gonna be enough and you're gonna need more anyway. It's
How
at
much?
15,000.
You said
15,000?
15,000, so what would you propose to cut it to, 5?
I would propose, reduce it at least down to 10, if not down to 5, and that will give us 5 to 10K more. I know these are little bites these are little apples, Susan,
No,
but
but
we can
if
get
Ten's
to
a
the
large
tree.
chunk.
Yeah,
Ten
yeah,
is
it
a
does-
ton.
yeah.
What
It
are we
doesn't
up,
have
what
to
are we
cut
up to
of-
now? Anyone keeping track?
Well, if you take
Yes.
the 10 and then the 4 from the EDC,
Mhm.
that's almost, that's 14 right there.
Yep.
So between the police and hopefully the fire and DPW giving us,
No.
that will help, take off some from the
Even if it cut
fire
them
and
to
the-
10,
yeah.
the fire and the DPW.
Well, then I would want police, fire, and DPW to come in here and give us a dog and pony show
Yes.
about why that number isn't going to affect
Right.
services in the slightest.
Yeah.
Well, I think police is.
Yeah, police already did.
Police we
Police
can do it
did,
based
yeah.
on
Police we
savings from
did.
not funding
Yeah, we
positions.
understand the
Filling
police,
them.
so I
So
wanna
if we
hear
take
about,
that money,
Fire
I
is
wanna hear
very
about,
important.
I wanna
Yeah.
hear about the fire and DPW.
but if we put that money towards the
So-
fire and DPW side,
Yeah.
so that way it's less cuts from those two.
Now, the special town meeting is October
26th.
22nd, and our next meeting isn't until October
October
third, et
third, we have to
cetera.
close the warrant on October third
Why
as
can't we
well.
call one earlier? Why
So
can't we
we,
call one next week?
that's why I'm asking, we may have to, let's schedule another meeting to get these
Why do we
department
want
heads
one?
in.
I'm not
I
gonna
might
be
have
here
known,
next week.
but I
I
don't think we necessarily need to, cause the
Right.
warrant has to close at least 14 days before special town meeting.
Right, and we can just put a placeholder there, we don't have to have the finalized numbers,
So we
when
need
we
to set up a
close
meeting
the
with
warrant.
department heads though.
So we're currently at, so with the 4K from economic, the 10K,
But we do need a final number for the meeting,
the
for the town meeting.
10K for the
Well,
unemployment.
we know what the number has to be for
That's
the meeting.
14, we have 15K from the police, that puts us at 29. We have 20K from the building commissioner, right, so that's at 49, 3K from Worcester County, that puts us at 52.
5K for the reserve fund.
Yeah,
5K for the reserve fund, so we're at
5K for retirement.
57, I got the
Do you already
unemployment,
have
yeah.
that?
3K for that, yep.
3K,
Oh,
yeah.
3K.
And then potentially money on tree warden, cause if we've already taken care of the stipend, there's money left, you know, we don't need to cut trees, I'd love to cut trees, but
Yeah.
maybe we don't need to cut trees, go to the reserve fund.
Parks, you mentioned, Josh, right?
How much for
Parks,
the
you
tree
ready?
warden?
And 2,500.
What was
I don't know,
for
I don't know
recreation.
what the
Okay.
stipend
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
That paid, does it?
2,500 for recreation,
So
did
the
you get that?
stipend, hold on, cause I have the,
So tree warden, recreation,
Is 2,500 for the
And that'll get
recreation?
close to 70.
and we could do the
Plus this.
unpopular thing and take a couple thousand from COA, which
Yes.
is not popular, and
Doesn't
it's not
know.
something I like doing, but
Everybody,
No.
everybody
No.
has to share in this. It's,
Yeah.
that's the way it is.
I mean,
Nobody,
they're only at
We
21,000.
took 2,000 out of library, I mean, there's no,
yeah, I mean, no one, no one gets to be
library.
exempt from this.
So the library has a calculation, you have to have a
Oh.
certain percentage and it has to be at least 19% of the calculation of the total library budget has to be of books.
Oh,
It's a state formula in order for them to remain eligible for state funding. It's a pain in the butt, I can't tell you the calculation, it's available on the website,
It's
it's a
like the
nightmare.
schools,
so we
same way.
can't touch that then, okay.
Well, you might be able to, but you have to know the precise calculation to know what you
You're
can
better
cut.
off leaving the library alone, let me tell ya, that's a sticky place.
so Parks went from 2,500 in supplies to 7,500 in
Right,
supplies.
that was, yeah, so you
The
could still-
5,000, so if we took away that
I was even willing to give them a 100% year-over-year increase and still take out 2,500.
okay,
So, like, I mean, but either way, yeah, we could take total and just level fund it.
right,
That's from Parks?
right.
They
How
went to
much?
7,500? Well, they were gonna buy a machine, did they ever get approval for that?
Was it those garbage companies?
The garbage
What
company.
Josh,
was-
how
what
much
was the
did you
figure
say
from
from
Parks that we
Parks?
were gonna-
That's right.
What was it, yeah, was that, maybe that
Take
was the 5,000 more,
compactor.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
it was a
compactor
compactor.
thing,
Oh.
yeah, so.
For the rec field, but,
Yep.
you know, once
Yeah.
again,
Yep.
see, there you got people throwing
Well,
their
that
stuff
and they're,
everywhere.
and they're, yeah, they're
So we do 5,000,
They're having
that was
issues
the
up
62.
there with
going up in
people
prices.
leaving trash too.
Cemetery, or that's probably for mowing lawns,
Well,
right?
I'm looking at, we have $1,000 to maintain that town clock.
The clock and
What
stake.
town clock?
Not
In the,
working.
in the library.
No,
No, on the
in the
church.
church.
in the church,
On the church.
in the
Actually,
Federated
you mean the
Church.
church, yes,
Yes,
I
the meeting
apologize, not
house.
the library, the church.
Because the town owns,
Yeah.
from my understanding, the town owns the clock even though the church owns the church.
Yeah.
Get rid of it,
Yeah.
it's another
Back to the
1,000.
future.
No,
Well, it's usually,
everybody sees that, do not do that, do not do that.
Well, so far we're up to 62, so then.
Well, we
Yeah,
already
we
have
gotta be
like
getting
4
close,
clocks
right?
that don't
Yeah.
work, what's one more at this
School
rate?
clock
What's the other
doesn't work.
clock?
62 out of
the-
how
the
much that we
4
need,
on the-
Josh?
One
Well, it
forty.
depends on what were we gonna not use any free cash then? I mean, because
We
we'll
were gonna
never,
go
I
to
mean,
70K.
yeah, we're hoping to get halfway there, I
Yeah,
think,
right.
so.
That was that one-time revenue, right?
Right.
The 70.
Yeah, I mean, I think if, assuming we do that, we would have to make it very clear at the special town meeting and then certainly at next year's annual town meeting, sort of why things are the way they are. So as Susan pointed out, said, you know, people don't think that we're just pulling money out of a hat, like our free cash amount for next year and so forth is taking a hit, and this is like money that
Right.
doesn't.
I
I
will
would
say
suggest
our
we go
free
line
cash-
item by line item at the
Exactly.
meeting and just
But-
say, here you go,
That's
you
right.
guys,
I wish we had done
That's
that at the last one. to be
yeah, I know,
honest, yeah.
I know.
Let
Yeah.
them decide.
Here's what you're looking at,
Yeah.
this is what we had
Somebody's
to do.
gonna have to
Where do you want us
explain how, what the free cash is.
Where do you want us to get it from?
So our free cash was certified at over $800,000 this year. That was a one-time, would never happen again, and Ryan is saying that our free cash should be around 500,000 normally.
Right.
So we have, I don't wanna call it a cushion, but we have a little bit of wiggle room, so to use free cash to pay for some of this is not gonna hurt.
We're gonna need that $300,000 to swallow what we get from Quabbin
We
next
are
year.
gonna need that for next year, I agree. But, I think using 70 of free cash toward the budget is probably the only way we're gonna be able to do this without.
There were some financial management policies,
We
was
can't
there one
sustain
that specifically
300,000 a year every year.
mentioned
That's
what a
not to say
target
something
free
will
cash
come to a
amount
head,
for the
it's all
town is
has-
as a percentage of
it's
its
gonna go
budget?
up.
I vaguely remember,
Yeah,
Maybe?
I
yeah,
vaguely remember,
yes.
I don't
Worked
remember
up
what the
some numbers.
percentage
Yes, it
was,
was.
Yeah.
but
Maybe
Was it
If
5%?
it's-
yeah, that's what I would've guessed, but I
Yeah.
don't know for sure.
I think
Five
it was
percent of
5%.
10 mil though would be,
$500,000.
What are you looking for,
Yeah.
financial
Yeah.
reserves policy?
yeah.
Yeah, like, yes, exactly, I know Ryan had, when we've done these, yeah, so what is the?
Assessor
girl.
Yeah,
Yay.
You have
We're
Do
glad
you
you're
have
here.
it?
Yeah, she
Because
just whipped it out of her binder.
You have stuff like
Oh,
right
she's a
there.
likable nerd, she's a
Look at
knowledgeable
you.
nerd.
Yes, she is. She's got everything, she's on
She's my
track.
favorite.
No, like, target, like a target
Or
amount.
not even a percentage? I thought
I
there
don't
was.
see
The
it.
paperwork's
No,
moving.
I know, I thought there was a target.
I thought there was too, maybe. I'm
So where are we
sure
at,
there
Josh?
was.
Do you have a number over there?
Yeah, we're at 62, we're at
Oh, that's good.
62,000,
Alright.
yeah.
From the 140, right?
Yeah.
So that would leave.
So we've knocked it down,
78.
no, almost,
We need 8 more
78
thousand.
for-
almost half, 50%, so.
Oh, wait.
So that's FinCom reserve.
Well, I mean, I
Or
think
So,
we're
take
all on
we
board.
did say-
take 78 from free cash.
Yeah, I mean,
Cindy, we
we're
did
all on
say
board, I think
COA.
at least
Yes, I
70.
And you
No,
should
we
get
should
that.
get 5%,
Take
yeah, okay.
from COA?
Josh, how
There
much
it
should
is.
we think we could
It's-
take from COA, like 2,000?
Oh, I hadn't taken any out in mine.
But I
Alright,
think we
where
could
is
take
it?
like
Oh,
2,000
this
to
is
be
just
a
my
10%
presentation
budget,
representation
yeah.
of the, I mean,
What's the
So
COA
it is a
budget?
3 to 5%.
it's like 21, I think according to this, assuming what I have is
The
accurate here,
majority
it's
of
like,
it is
uh,
wages, but,
Yeah.
21,000, they can lean more on the EOEA, their executive office elder affair grants. So
What
they'll
is-
have to do less programs and pay for more salary.
How much of that 21,000 is salary?
let me see if I can find it again.
I'll have details.
So,
That would be Claudia.
No, I'm asking
Yeah.
generally.
Yes. That would be
Claudia.
Oh, no, I know it's
Not-
Claudia, but I'm asking
Yeah.
how much of it is, how much of the line item is a salary item?
I wanna
thought that
say
was all of it.
Claudia's
I think a lot.
about 20, there's only like $2,000 in expenses in COA and the rest is salary, so it's
Alright.
like 20,
I'd cut the expenses and let them
That's
rely
right.
on EOEA.
That's right.
We have to do evenly, you know, there has to be things
No
that
one
people
is,
can
no
rep-
one gets out of this unscathed,
What
that's the
about,
way it is.
what other, committees are out there that have money in their
Exactly.
accounts?
So what's the figure for the
Already been hitting
expenses
them.
on
Now,
that?
add
What about-
2,000 now, it's
Oh,
all
2,000, okay,
yeah.
so 2,000 for this is council on aging?
Yeah,
What about, I was on that other one, cultural,
we're 64,000.
cultural
Now,
committee.
Josh, in the total you got, is that figuring the, for each department,
No,
what figure?
it has the
No.
police, it
So-
only has the police, it does not have fire,
So we haven't got
or
figures
DPW, it
of-
doesn't have
because
DPW
Ryan
either,
initially
actually.
recommended 15K for each
I
department.
don't know.
Sandy?
What?
Assessors, what are we doing for the assessor's office now? Do we still pay a service or are we paying a human?
it's a nightmare.
I know, but I'm
Did I
seeing
say
if the
that?
nightmare costs less than the amount we budgeted.
We are paying for the service, so we are
Okay.
paying right now, because we are under a contract.
So
we
we
are
have no
still
savings
paying-
available.
RRG,
Okay.
for this fiscal year. What we
Okay.
decide to do next fiscal year could be a savings there,
When
What's-
is
what
that
service?
contract up?
the end of June.
Is it that computer service that they supply?
That's part of it.
That's part of it, the whole
but
thing?
they do a lot of the work behind the scenes for the
Okay.
tax rate and all
Yeah,
that,
alright.
so, yeah.
Is the
Alright.
emergency management director line, is that just a stipend? Or is there supplies in that?
I think he probably has some supplies in there too. I know he gets a lot of, he was getting a ton of stuff, COVID stuff, but, he does get a stipend as well.
Do you know what
So-
the travel expense is under accountant, employee support, travel?
So our accountant is located in Florida, and part of her agreement was that, she would fly for, town meetings and for the audit to be here, and so that was part of that, whether or not we need all that.
I'm just saying the day
How
of
much is
Zoom
it?
meetings,
How much is it?
2,500.
Yeah, okay.
No, there's a whole nother line there though.
Is that
Oh, there is?
Why do we have
Is
to
there a
tell
way to
them
find
Florida?
out how much
Well,
I don't know.
That's
I know
crazy.
I had
It
talked
says
to,
it's line 5, it's 5110 employee support under accountants,
okay,
13135.
isn't there, I just saw that, where did it go? Accountant,
I'm looking at the file from the approved town meeting budget. The budget approved at town meeting. That's the file I'm looking at.
I'm still trying to find,
So the only other thing I can think of, which would be unpopular, but not
Oh,
as
okay.
unpopular as reducing hours, would be to go just across the board in anyone's, not educational expenses, but like seminars and so forth, and cut them.
Yep.
Like just cut all of them 50%, and that'll give us a couple more $1,000 to get us there, and it's not ideal, and it stinks.
But at least you
But
have a
it's-
job.
Are there any that are required though?
No.
No?
Not really, it depends, if you get a new, so getting a new TA, there's certain things like procurement and so forth that they're gonna need certified, so if the money is funded for that, you wouldn't wanna touch that piece, and you're looking at about $2,000-$3,000 between all three trainings. Probably closer to about 2,000. A lot of times police conferences are really expensive, depending on the contract, sometimes they have money for staying in a hotel or flying or so forth, and maybe we just can't afford that this year to go, or maybe we say no travel outside of the state and reduce any of the expenses that have to do with outside the state.
Agreed.
You
Yeah.
guys.
Well, the issue with
Yeah.
travel is, I think, I mean, again, in the post-COVID Zoom meeting world,
Mhm.
can, I've attended conferences online
Exactly.
through Zoom meetings.
Yep.
There will be accommodations I would be virtually certain for on any conference that could be done that way.
Some, I don't know all, some of them I think just say we're going to in person and we're done.
Right, some training you have to be physically there because you're doing physical things.
But-
So,
But that could be more money to go in and potentially,
but, this seminar, going here for a seminar, going here, cut it all, unless it's required.
Why is the accountant's physical presence required for town meeting or the audit? When was the last time we asked the accountant anything at town meeting?
we didn't.
Okay.
As far as I know, the audit, the whole audit process has changed because of COVID as well. I mean, they used to come in, spend 2 weeks here, now I upload all the documents and they're working
Exactly.
behind the
Yeah, I
scenes.
think that,
travel
in
I
a
think
share
that needs to
drive,
go away.
When's the contract up? Is
What
it a contract with them, with the accountant, town accountant?
No,
It's just,
she's an
So-
appointed position.
Would she be fine with not having to come back here? Cause no offense, in like the middle of December, I don't think she wants to come back here anyway.
No.
Exactly.
It's nice and
And
warm
she
down in
was
Florida.
planning to come up for the October town meeting. I had kinda said I didn't really think she needed to
No.
be here for that.
She doesn't need to be here for that.
we can email her if we need something.
We can put her on a Zoom link.
Well,
Right.
you can Zoom
Yeah,
her
you
or
can
you
Zoom
can
link
call
her.
her.
Pretty
Right
soon
in.
you're gonna see your town meeting's gonna have a big screen, we're gonna have to have a screen
So
for
what's
people
that-
can't
what's
make
that-
it.
what's the
That's
value of that?
25
So
that's
if we do
$2,500.
2,000 for COA and
screen
2,500 for the
we use the
accountant
TV.
travel, we're now up to 66.5.
So I'm looking at the fire department budget, and under supplies, they had medical supplies was 13.5 last year. They upped it to 14.2 for this year. And then there's another line that says medical supplies new, $9,500.
They might be required to grab that by, so so the statutes keep changing as to what they're
Yeah,
required
but
to
it
have
should,
and not.
we just
Rotation
need
and
to see a
stuff.
line item, we need to see what
I guess I
what
I
it is.
can ask him what that means, cause that was something he said we could cut $2,000 out of.
Yeah.
So if we can,
What if we're so close to that 70, what if we give the jurisdiction at this point to Sandy to run with her departments and figure out where she can cut the last, $3,500, so that we don't spend any more time.
You don't wanna stay here till
No,
midnight?
no, I don't.
Okay.
Nope.
Just
Got
saying,
a baby to take care of,
just saying.
and a husband.
gee, thanks.
I think between DPW and the fire, if they can come back to us and tell us that the whole world won't, stop. Yeah,
You wanna
For
have them come to the next meeting?
$3,500.
I would like them to come to the next
Should we
meeting,
ask
yes.
them,
Well, I don't
the
want it
chief
to be the whole world, that level is not what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I know, that's what I mean.
I'm interested
Why-
in the
why don't we
margins
do
for
that?
them,
Ask them
and
to
I
come
don't
to the
wanna
next
cut them
meeting.
at all.
But do we need them at the next meeting? Cause if we're only cutting
Well,
$3,500 between the two of us.
So
Okay.
no,
And
we're
they
not-
recommend it.
and
Yeah.
we're not
They
touching
pointed
them,
out to us.
and we're not touching them, right, in this,
That
Well,
we
in
touched
this
police, it
list.
did not touch fire, it
Right,
did not touch.
okay, then good.
Well, no, they're saying the last
We're still looking for
3,500
70,
comes
aren't we?
No,
Yeah,
I know,
but
but
we
it's
only
not
have
the, it's not the
3,500 left to get to
45,000
70.
that was
Right.
being talked about,
We're not
so
going to
Pretty
full
close.
140, I don't
Yeah,
think,
so
we were going at 70, I
3,500.
don't know, I mean,
So
It
wh-
sounds
where's the
like
other
that
70
might
gonna cut
be-
from?
Free cash.
Free cash.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
alright,
it's-
alright,
yeah.
with
alright.
the stipulation that we need to educate the voters as the danger of doing that, that's not a recurring
Right.
Right, oh,
thing that can be
definitely.
done.
You can't
Absolutely.
The
get it,
ambulance will show up with nothing but Band-Aids.
That's not where you bail yourself out, no.
And the fact is, we're at 70K before we have to get into cutting humans.
That's right.
That would be the next cut if we had to do another 70K,
Well,
'cause
I
there's no
think,
way.
I think then the exercise might be to do the full budget cut without cutting free cash and demonstrate what this looks like. And there's no appetite to do this tonight.
No,
Fair enough.
Cause we have an executive session, we also have.
That's
to
right,
do
you've
that,
got
so-
other stuff on the agenda.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that this be re-upped at the October third, right?
October
October
3rd,
third
yes.
meeting, and that we bring it home on the
Okay.
third. And in
Can
the
you have a-
meantime, we can,
Gives you enough time for that?
maybe we can have a meeting, or we can do something and noodle on some ideas of our own.
So you folks also then wanna come to the October
Oh,
third
yeah.
meeting? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll be
Oh,
here
yeah.
anyway.
And
Just
so,
put us
just to
earlier in the
clarify, you
session.
want me to find
It's open
the
door.
other
Just a minute,
3,500?
Mike, just a minute.
Sure.
Okay,
Yes, so Sandy asked, I'm sorry, Mike, Sandy asked for clarification that it's up to her and the other department heads to figure out where they're gonna scrape $3,500 from.
That's right, right?
Well,
right,
should we give
instead
them,
of the 15,000.
That's right.
Yeah,
Each department.
so it's
well, but
3,500
you already
between
have
the
a
three of them?
proposal from the chief. So we want those details, I mean, if we
Okay.
can do that without hurting them,
Cutting
then why
services.
not put them
Go
in
with that
place?
number.
Instead of telling them we need 3,500, what can they do and be able to live with?
Right,
Mhm.
perhaps
And-
that might result in us taking less from free
Free
cash.
cash,
Right.
that's what
Yeah.
I was,
Okay,
Mike, what,
A couple of quick observations, a short-term one and a longer-term one. I meant to ask this question of the chief last, time when he was here, and that was how much per month are we saving by holding that vacancy? The 15K, we're already a quarter of the way through the fiscal year. How long has that position been vacant? At least 2 months. So I'm sure it's gotta be greater than 5K per month. So their 15K is probably not only achievable, it's probably already exceeding that amount.
but because they're not filling that position, they're paying overtime
Right.
Ah, okay, okay.
to cover the shift, so
It's
it's,
still needed.
Well, that's not
It's still-
exactly what the chief said, though. He said that through our cooperative agreements, we've got, we're relying on our quote-unquote neighbors
for
to town.
coverage, if,
that's
Right.
for coverage, yeah.
that's for coverage
for
if there's an
backup.
emergency, for
Okay. Right.
backup and things like that.
So I still think we need the number of how much we're saving per month, otherwise, we don't know what the real number is. So I know
We do.
overtime varies, but we probably have a pretty good idea now that we're a quarter of the way through the fiscal year and that position has been basically vacant. The other comment I wanted to make was regarding what appears to me, now having been around and sat through a lot of these meetings, is that we definitely have a school budgeting process issue. You know, that's undeniable, because I've seen it at every, basically, budget and town meeting I've gone to, which I think I've been to a lot of them, so I'm speaking with at least a little bit of knowledge and understanding. And that you can't proceed with the school budget without the override being married to it. Because then we really have to make a true decision, and we can't allow one part of the process to override it and send out an email blast and go to a special town meeting where we usually have trouble making the quorum of 50 people, and then all of a sudden, as soon as I saw 120, I went, something's up here.
Right, exactly.
So we
Exactly.
have to have a strategy, and that doesn't mean that education isn't important. God, I'll support education, but with you gotta do it in conjunction with your budget, and I think that's where the disconnect is. So our budget and the override and the school portion of it all has to be dovetailed together, and that's what I haven't seen.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Could I make a request of the select board too, particularly as they perhaps interview another candidate to the school committee, would be to ask the school committee to have the school administration do some budget forecasting for the next, say, 5 years, so that we could have some numbers to work with in terms of trying to estimate what our assessment responsibilities will be. I believe one of the Hubbardson representatives is chair of the budget subcommittee of the school committee, so perhaps asking through our school committee representatives to have the administration come up with a budget forecast. I think that would be very helpful for us.
I thought that we,
Like formally ask them.
no, I know, but I thought we had
We've intimated
received-
it in the past, I think, at meetings
I,
with them.
I think we have, but I thought in one of the emails from Ryan, didn't he say that they refused to do it?
Yeah.
Because they did not have sufficient information from the
Right.
state.
Well, I guess I would
in
like
order
them to make, if they could make
in-
a formal request of their, the school committee is an oversight for the school administration, would be my sort of understanding. If they could make a formal request, the administration would be able to decline that request, but that at least would be formally made at a school committee meeting.
Okay, alright, okay,
so that we can at least move forward.
you're looking for process on that.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Just so that it, you know, we can at least put that on their radar, that this is something that we would like.
Mm-hmm. Okay then. So we all
Fun times.
We can certainly ask.
see you in
Yes.
Ryan was able to make a 5 and 10 year forecast without the school committee budget, without our QRSD assessment number, so they could certainly make their budget forecast. Yes, it's not gonna be, we're not holding them to an absolute number.
They don't want to. They don't wanna put their info
Right,
out
but
there.
if
But
we
the other
put it in their lap,
But the other
then,
problem too then is that the forecasts that we make
Yeah.
aren't the
Well,
best,
they're not-
because we're coming up with numbers that don't
School's not
necessarily
very
have any
transparent.
basis in, no, they're not.
No.
But I think I think
They go
you
formal.
have done a historical analysis,
Mhm.
and we can do a
Sure.
really good back of the envelope guess as to what these numbers are gonna look like going forward.
Mhm.
but that's
And
my
I-
point, if I can do that with their data,
Right.
then they could at least make as good an estimate, as good a forecast for us.
They can, but what I'm
Will they?
suggesting, right, but what I'm suggesting is that we can do it too.
Right.
We know what their number is gonna look
Yeah.
like, we know what it's gonna start at, we know what it's gonna come down to, it's gonna come down to anywhere between 2 and 3%. And
every,
two- but
every
2 and
year, guaranteed.
That's right, but 3% of $40 million is a big number.
What I also
a
get
lot
at
of
though
money.
is, cause a lot of,
And that is what we should be using.
what I
to
would be happy
inform
with then is
ourselves.
if they could get, so they have information in terms of state aid, so how much they get per pupil, how much they get because of different categories of median income and so forth. they know what they probably have projections on student enrollment that we don't have. They have additional variables that they could fill in. That's right. If they want to just give over those, you know, what the projections are for student, they must have student enrollment projections then for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't have it. I don't have that number. So if they could get, they can come up with something. Is my point? I guess that would hopefully be more accurate than us because they have more of the data than we do, and so that would be
But
very helpful
I don't,
for us.
but does that data inform any of their budgeting?
I would hope that in terms of forecasting what state aid they will be receiving, which is obviously a large portion of their budget, it was just a request. It was a request
No, I know.
for open so that the committees can work together to try to get our way out of this.
No, I think,
Can't hurt
I think.
to ask. Can't hurt to ask.
No, it can't hurt to ask,
Right, and a
I'm
formal
just.
request at one of their meetings would be, I think,
Documented, formal,
But it does
in the
not
record
appear,
request.
right, but it doesn't appear to me.
Through the school committee board. Through
Right.
the school committee, right,
Yeah.
of which one of
I mean,
our
how can they tell
representatives is
them no?
chair
I
of
mean,
their
they can, I
budget
guess.
subcommittee.
Well, our,
Is that
our
Debbie?
school
believe it's
committee
Mark Whitler.
representative
Oh, Mark.
has to be willing to articulate it.
Correct.
I think where we're gonna end up on this one,
We
Mr.
are,
Chairman.
yeah, we are,
We need
this is
to-
a
Thank you,
subject,
yes.
yeah, this is a subject
So
for
you-
us for a different.
Then you guys should adjourn your meeting, okay?
Alright, what time is it, 8:33, how about a motion to adjourn?
Put a motion, I gotta take a break for like a minute,
Sean,
so.
alright, second
Great,
for
yeah, we
Peter,
all- yeah.
adjourn,
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
8:33.
I won't be able to
I might have a piece of
October
cake.
3rd meeting.
Please do.
Okay. Alright,
I know,
Where's the
trust
candy?
me,
Mr.
I will
Chairman,
be
would you
there.
like,
Yeah.
is
You
it
can
possible
give
we
me-
could take a 5-minute break since we just lost half of our committee?
Sure, yeah,
Well-
well, they're gonna leave anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, they're doing their thing.
Do we need to
We've been
meet
thrown out of
before
nicer
Monday?
places than this.
That's unfortunate.
Alright, thank you, Finance Committee.
Are we
Yes.
going into
Yes,
executive
thank you.
session, Mr. Chairman?
Not yet,
We've got some
but
other
yes,
things.
we have to, yeah.
Okay, you can stay, Mike.
That's something.
Yeah, I understand the executive session.
But
I
not at
just
this,
didn't want you hanging around for 5 minutes and then say, oh, you gotta go.
not at this juncture, we still have a few items
Especially
we
if
have
it's
to.
not raining right now.
Carolyn's waiting.
This would be a good
Yeah,
time
plus,
to get
yeah, we've
going.
got, our lawyer is waiting too, she's on Zoom for the executive session, so we've got to get through these other items.
Oh, yes, yeah, those little,
Cheaper than, cause
We
that was a
can't cut
question
the
I
legal
had, the
budget.
planning board is having a meeting and they requested that she be here.
Sandy, where's the candy bowl?
Oh, there was already one that was there.
I don't know,
lawyer
I think
last
it's
time.
missing, but
And
help
my
yourself.
point
And
is,
that was
that's gotta be
cake.
more expensive than if she's on Zoom.
That was a 5+
Help
hour
yourself.
night that we paid for.
I-
A
I-
lawyer to
Cindy
sit
was telling me, and I said, and she said that, as far as she's concerned, the planning board should pay for that.
Yeah, yes.
What do you got?
All the way forward.
This is Bobby's stash.
Okay.
Now we're getting into executive thing, but I mean,
You can tell her it was
man
me.
woman is costing us
You can tell her it was me.
That's the whole second.
Sorry.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if the planning board uses legal, the planning board pays for
Then
it.
I would've got.
If the select board uses legal, the select board pays for it.
Well, be safe. Oh,
because we're still on the,
Yeah, I know.
Yes, we've
Okay, we're
got,
gonna move to, items 5, volunteer night and token of appreciation.
okay.
Sandy, go ahead.
So, in years prior, when Ryan first started here, he decided, created this volunteer appreciation night. We always did it the first select board meeting in December. We presented the, volunteers with a small gift.
Does it cost money?
It cost a little bit of money.
Okay.
And we would serve refreshments over there that mostly the staff would make and bring in. And we would just have like a reception time for like an hour before a Board of Selectmen meeting. So we were looking at doing it again this year. The girls, I say that, Bobby and Tony have kind of come up with a small, inexpensive, token of the town's appreciation, roughly $350 a piece. What is it? I can't tell you. And we were looking at December 6th to have a meeting. Now, knowing that we're cutting budgets, we can try to find something else. We can do away with the gift, just have a reception time. You tell me what you wanna do, or forget the whole thing.
How much is a gift?
It's $350 each.
Each?
Yeah.
Question is how many volunteers?
How many you gonna order?
Roughly 100.
That's a lot of money.
I think it's optics. I think it's just a bad look. We can't
Okay.
be doing gifts, spending
Right.
money on gifts,
If we're taking.
if we're going to town meeting and telling them how bad our budget is.
Can we?
We can have a reception where everybody
Yes.
bakes something. I'll be happy to bake something and bring something in. We can,
Okay.
someone can be on soda coming like you did in high school, right? What
Right.
are you gonna bring? I'll bring the soda to the party, you bring the cake to the party, you bring the
Potluck.
chips to the party. We can have something over there and do it that way, but
No
I wouldn't
gifts.
spend anything
Okay.
from the
Okay.
town's finances
Okay.
to do it.
Oh, we gotta.
So I think it's important to continue it though, because a thank you can
Yeah,
Yes.
cause I mean.
pay
Yeah.
off in spades,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and when Dan Gallant was chair, he would, speak at this, you know, and just thank the volunteers
It's easy
for
enough.
what they do.
Jeff's got a speech already.
Okay, that's good. Okay,
So just let us know beforehand so I can
I will do that.
make something.
Sure.
So,
Also
the
then
6th of
December
December
6th.
is okay with everybody?
Sounds lovely.
That's the first.
It's a Tuesday.
No.
You said
Oh,
the
maybe it is because,
You said the 6th, didn't you?
yes, which
It's a
actually,
Tuesday. No, that's not before a select board meeting.
it is because Heather might have had to change it.
Heather's messing us up again.
Heather hasn't changed the schedule again yet.
Okay,
Because I have that as a select board meeting on Tuesday the 6th.
okay, so why are we?
I don't think I did it.
Is Monday a holiday?
No,
No.
Not in December unless there's a new one.
alright.
Other
Double
than
check
About
your
Pearl Harbor Day.
schedule if maybe we
7th.
can do it on the 5th.
We'll
I
always
think I'm
remember the
fine,
7th
Cindy. I
of
can't
December.
imagine anything.
There you go.
It's the
You
CB
don't have-
song.
Okay,
Oh.
So
Maybe I just wrote it-
tentatively the 6th then,
or
or
the 5th.
the 5th?
It
Is
should
that
be
where we
the
are now?
It should be the 5th unless Heather had something.
Heather
Yeah.
can't think of anything.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
why Heather would
Okay.
have
Alright.
issues in December.
Heather doesn't have anything booked in December yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's get moving on, number
So-
6, the
So-
date for the,
Sixth or the fifth?
The fifth.
Fifth.
Monday the
You just
fifth.
said
We're on
six.
number 6.
We're gonna,
No,
we're
we're
on
on
Oh,
number
okay.
6.
date for the select board interviews with the
Uh-huh.
potential town administrator candidates, Saturday, October 15th. Is the suggested one starting at 9 a.m. This would be like a 5 to 6 hour day. Interviews beginning at 9:15 in the morning, 15-minute break between each candidate, half hour for lunch. And I'm quoting, you will begin deliberation right after the last candidate. Intent to,
This is
Pick
who?
one.
Who's involved in this?
This is,
This is the-
for
for the
the
finals.
select board for the
What's
final
the date now?
interviews.
October 15th,
Saturday.
October.
Is that close?
Yeah, 'cause we'd already talked
Are
about.
they whittled down to 4?
they will be.
They were down to 8 last week and they have
So-
a meeting this week to whittle it down, yeah.
MRI sent to the town administrator search committee 8 applicants, 8 resumes for people that they felt would be good candidates, and they are meeting this Wednesday. The town administrator search committee is meeting Wednesday from 4 to 7 to review those 8 and hopefully whittle it down to the 3 or 4 that they want the select board to interview. And then Heather, sorry, I forgot your name for a minute. Heather had informed me that she is going to be away, like the whole first week in October, so that kinda
It's my fault.
delayed it a little bit.
That's fine. Cause she's a shining star here, she's
But then if the search committee does need to meet again to help whittle that down, and it gives our potential candidates that the select board interviews time to, make their schedule so that they're available for us on the 15th, if that works for all of you.
And then those meetings, Sandy, will be open to the public, correct?
I thought they had to be executive session, no? Okay.
The screening committee's executive session, the select board ones are open.
Oh, these are open.
So we'll have to be on video.
So dress accordingly.
Okay.
Just as good as it gets.
So what is the time on that again? Saturday, October 15th?
Yep.
9:50.
9 in the
9 a.m.
morning.
start,
9 to what?
averaging roughly a
all day.
5 to 6 hour day.
Bring
your
a lunch.
coffee.
They are hoping we'd be done around 2 is what they're saying. Their thought is that we would deliberate, or you would deliberate, after hearing the interviews.
And that would be an executive session.
That would be an executive session and make a choice that same day.
If we can come to that, right?
So, right,
Right,
right.
sometimes
So
I
there
need
would
to
be no
mull that
sleeping
over,
on
so.
it.
So in other words, we go into executive, make a decision, then come back to a meeting and announce,
When are we
or
going
no?
to get?
No, I think you deliberate in open session. You could go into exec just to talk about negotiations for
The,
a potential contract, but you
yes.
have to deliberate in open session.
Okay,
So,
alright, so no executive session.
no, unless we're gonna negotiate,
Just
go in for
contract.
strategy of
Okay.
negotiating for the contract.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
we should post, and I'm sure they'll tell us that we should post it in exec at the end, in
Just
case
in
we all
case.
know that we want Bob. I don't
Mhm.
know if Bob is. I don't think
I don't know
Bob
who
applied,
Bob is either.
I like Bob, that's the name of the month. So if we like Bob, we wanna be able to offer him, we say, oh my god, he's hands down, we all wanna do it, we wanna do it today. We go into executive session to discuss strategy for negotiation of the contract. And that
Question-
way we can offer Bob the
Question
job.
on that, cause I'm trying to remember from the last ones. It's an open session meeting.
Yep.
But we're the ones doing the questioning.
Yep,
It's not open to the public to be questioning, cause that would take us days.
Right.
So we're the ones who will be questioning the candidates. So if it's open,
But we're
they
not
can sit and
listen.
observe and listen, but we don't take questions from the public. Is that your understanding?
it's the decision of the select board. I've been in
Well-
interviews where sometimes they'll allow a question from the
Really?
floor and sometimes they won't, so that would be
Well,
something we would need to decide ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to mull over, cause it could really get out of hand.
Well, what Buzz from MRI said is that you would have an hour with each candidate, so,
And
you
they-
know,
they would-
after that 1 hour,
And they will provide questions for us too.
Oh, they will?
To
Yeah.
pick.
So,
Yeah.
as a guide?
Hmm?
As a guide?
Yes,
Yeah.
but they're gonna
Yeah.
review whatever your final questions are to make sure they're
Yeah.
legit.
Well, everything's legit.
Well, they wanna make sure we stay out of the legal waters.
Yeah.
right,
Oh, right. Yeah, I
right.
need to, I
As
need some
Katie
legal
found
boundary
out,
on
you
this
cannot
anyways.
ask their date of birth.
Wait a minute, I gotta get clarity on this. When are we gonna have the information from the 4 final candidates in our hand? Like resume, background, cover letter, are we ever gonna get that?
Should've had it already.
Yes,
No.
no,
No, it's
No.
not down to 4 yet.
because
Oh,
it's
down
not
to
down to 4
It's
yet.
all
The search
confidential.
committee is meeting on Wednesday.
To get it down to 4?
If they
If they
can
can.
get it down to 4, I'm sure they will get that information to you. But this gives them a little more time to meet again if they can't get it down to 4, but you will have, I'm sure you will have at least a week.
And they're doing interviews on Wednesday?
I know, are they actually meeting
No,
with them?
they are doing interviews, I'm sorry, they are whittling it down to 4, they are doing interviews on the 26th and 27th of
Okay.
September.
And then they're hoping to have their final recommendations.
and then they'll have
for
their
the board.
final recommendations
Okay.
for us,
Final four.
final four.
Okay, so they are
Or
actually
three.
meeting them all.
Or one.
No, can't be one.
No, that's.
And then we'll have that information a week, 2 weeks prior to when
Right.
we do. Now you said, what'd you just say about questions? We can ask questions, but they gotta be screened by somebody prior to asking
So
questions.
MRI is coming up with, they're going to give us a list of questions, that apparently are normally used in interviews. Their suggestion is that the 5 of you would split up the questions, so you would each ask like 2, and that would be a total of 10 questions, and,
So they're giving us their questions that they want us to ask these,
right, I believe
Candidates.
they're questions that they feel would,
that's kinda odd.
So,
well,
when
No,
I,
not,
To
when-
me, it's
when
odd.
we met with him, one of the explanations, and it makes sense, is they're trying to help us as much as possible so that we're not just stuck to looking down here, we need to be able to see the candidates,
Yeah.
et cetera, and this is just a
But what
helping
if-
aid.
what if
We
I
still can have
a certain question I wanna
you can ask.
Oh, okay.
so.
Okay, but these are questions also
this
that
is
are
just
generally asked
A general
for
area.
a town administrator position,
But,
okay?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
but his particular unique question he wants to ask, doesn't that have to be
Fall within-
screened? Like, we can't ask how old a person is, we
Right.
can't ask their,
So
The-
do we have to submit them prior to?
that, I guess
I
that's my
would
question, thank
yeah. They will also be here
Okay.
the day that we interview the, or you guys interview the candidates, so, Buzz and Bob, I think is his name, will be here that day. So they will guide us too, and if you ask something, I'm sure they'll pipe right up and say, oh, no, no,
So I
Mhm.
think, Peter, I spoke to Tony earlier today, so I think what the intent was they were gonna send out the questions to us, not in a meeting, cause we don't really want questions and stuff getting out.
Yep.
So, and then you'll have an opportunity to review, and if there's a question on there that you just like, there's not my question, I like this question better than this question, just send it to them. To
Okay.
incorporate, those are questions if you're
Right.
gonna ask, you
Right, so
know,
I'll just send-
candidate A, candidate B, candidate C,
Yeah.
but you might have, you know, if you review poor Bob's resume and you're like, oh my god, I wanna know about this,
Yeah.
that would be a specific follow-up.
right,
Which you wouldn't necessarily have to, you know, screen, they're just trying to make sure that we're coloring in the 4 lines.
Yeah.
right. Right.
Sometimes you think it's an innocent question, but it's been tried, literally.
And they do this for a living, so.
Exactly,
And that's what we're paying them for too.
Yeah.
So,
So is their recommendation though that we should ask this candidates the same questions?
Well, you
Like if-
have to.
that's our choice too, yeah,
Insert.
yeah.
Well, so
You
essentially.
can
that's-
change up follow-ups, but
Yeah.
like.
Okay, so in other words, whatever question we choose to ask, we should be asking all 3 that same question.
Yep.
Each person, so I
In the
have
same way.
X, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
Bob and the other 2 guys, or ladies, this one question and I ask them each time.
Yeah,
Okay.
essentially, we will decide what, we feel the questions that relate to Hubbardston. And those are the key ones that, you know, we would wanna get
Exactly.
answered because we're talking about the town Hubbardston.
right,
And yeah, so
right,
we wanna get all of their opinions from that.
And the key is, Katie, to ask the exact same questions, the same words, the same way, because you don't wanna give anyone an unfair advantage.
Yep.
Okay,
I've learned that lesson long ago.
alright, can we move on then?
Exactly.
So what is my, still not clear, what is my process for asking a unique question that's not on their list of 10 questions?
I would.
Make sure it's a legitimate question I can ask prior to, is it just when we're all here that day, I pull one of them aside and I say, hey, can I ask this question? Or do I email my question to you and you forward it off to them tomorrow
I
and
would
say?
suggest that, if
Okay.
you know what the question is ahead of time, definitely,
But they also will be here that you could
and they
ask.
will
I
be
mean-
here that day too.
Something might pop into your head when they give you an answer.
Yeah,
And you
follow
might have another question right away. and it's
We,
like,
we have
wait
an
a
hour,
minute,
we
it's
have
not
an
on our
hour with
list.
each candidate, we have an hour with each candidate, so I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
things are gonna pop up.
Yeah.
Right.
So like I said, it's like,
Which is
uh-oh,
also why I think
that's not on
we-
my list.
which is why I think we need to limit the
Mister, can I
public
ask a question?
as far as their participation. Because
Right.
we have an hour and each candidate deservedly has to have the same attention,
From each one of us.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to have the.
Well, according to Heather, she said that was a decision that the five of us here need to make.
That's what I'm saying, but that's why I'm requesting that we seriously consider that we'd limit.
Well, let's talk about it right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get us to the executive session, we got
Well,
a lawyer waiting for us, et cetera.
but this is real quick though, I think if we open it up to the public, not that they don't have a good bunch of questions, but that's gonna throw us off our questioning and what we need answered and suck up that hour time, cause an hour goes real quick when you start opening it up to the floor.
That's
And what they might ask one of the candidates questions,
And not another.
not the others, and it has to be the same for every one of them.
Exactly, so I think we should,
It's gonna be a long enough day as it is.
yeah, I would say not
Did,
myself
didn't
personally,
they
but-
send something out to the public about questions to ask the administrator? Did they mention that?
They asked for
No,
what
they said-
people were looking for.
What they were looking for,
Okay.
that was when the initial
Yeah.
search, Mike, we
Mike
can't
Stoll,
take
5
long,
Lombard Road.
we can't take long, so.
Well,
Okay.
you know I don't take long,
So-
and I sit here patiently.
Yes.
I'm a member of the public, I come to many of these meetings, I will plan on being at that meeting. I don't believe I should be asking questions,
Mhm.
because of the nature of trying to be consistent,
Yeah.
and the time constraints, and the fact that you never know what's gonna come out of someone's mouth.
Correct.
You know, I hold my tongue a lot, and I'm glad I do,
Yeah.
because it can seem right at the moment,
Me too.
but not in hindsight.
I
Thank
should
you.
wear a mask too, cause I can hide a lot of things with a mask.
The only other thing I'd add to that, Jeff, is just that, you know, by
'Cause I
doing
have-
the screening
I
committee,
do a
we've
lot of
got
facial
public
shit, you
buy-in,
know what I mean?
right? We asked for
Oops.
residents who were interested in town and
Mhm.
people involved in town, so the public is represented on
Already.
that committee.
Right. So, should we put this in form of a motion, or just in general agreement?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we don't let the public ask questions during the interview process of the town administrator candidates.
And we'll explain it in the very beginning, why, and then
Yeah.
start our
And
meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion made and second, any questions or discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
So be it. Okay. Gotta move here. Old business, nothing. TA report?
What's the
Anything?
rush, Jeff?
Nothing.
We're no rush.
Basically, all,
Cause there's
Okay.
a lawyer
Going
sitting
on
there.
9:00, and we
So
still have an
what?
executive session,
That's all right.
and a lawyer
I
waiting.
got all night.
The lawyers change.
She on the
But
clock?
she doesn't
Yes.
cha-ching till we
Mhm.
call.
She's on the clock?
Mm-hmm.
Not till we call her.
She's
Not
on
till we call.
standby.
She's,
Yeah.
she's waiting for us.
She's on retainer. Once we
Mhm.
call her,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
she is.
We'll get to it, okay, so, no TA report, okay? Next item, number 8, we just have to vote on this was the civilian traffic control unit that Ryan brought to us, at the last meeting, so it's, all he needs is, a vote to approve it.
Unfortunately, I have some questions.
Not unfortunately.
So,
He's not here to
page-
answer,
I-
he's not here to answer.
But I'm gonna put them in the record and say, just simple questions. So page 2, appointment preference to the traffic control unit will be considered to Hubbardston Police Department employees and retired full-time police officers. Who do we have as a Hubbardston Police Department employee who's not a police officer or the administrative person?
What do you mean, people that are,
It says appointment preference to this unit will be considered to Hubbardston Police Department
Preference.
employees
Right.
and retired full-time police officers.
yeah, that's the preference.
I got the last part, but who do we have who is a Hubbardston Police
Nobody.
Department employee who's not an administrative person?
I think they had to put it in writing that the police
Nobody.
officers would get first dibs on any details, and then the other people that they hire would fall.
But I didn't understand this as we're appointing police officers to the traffic control unit. I was under the impression that the traffic control unit,
No.
civilian traffic control unit member, non-sworn member of the Hubbardston Police Department whose duties are restricted to traffic direction control capabilities as determined by the chief, not performed by sworn officers. To contrast with
Okay.
full-time sworn member of the department who is appointed as a police officer under MGL Chapter 41, Section 98. So I'm just a little confused by that.
Yeah.
And it actually delineates it here. Full-time police officers who retire or separate from service in good standing, parentheses, other than an accidental disability retirement, I'm not sure what that means. And then down here, Hubbardston Police Department employees who are not police officers may be assigned to the Civilian Traffic Control Unit. So I just wanna know if we're assigning the administrative person to the Traffic Control Unit. Because that's the only other employee that I'm aware of that works for the town of Hubbardston Police Department.
Correct statement.
So I think if we could ask him to kindly modify that, cause I don't think it's relevant. I think at one point in time, or perhaps I know in the town that he might have taken this from, this could have been relevant because the dispatch employees might have been considered that. But even still, I don't know how they'd have higher qualifications than someone on the, you know, if
Okay.
you work the phone and not the same as directing the traffic.
Okay.
So we're not ready to vote on it then, so.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I have is on page 7, number 2, secure from detail assignments only when relieved by the contractor. I'm not sure I understand that sentence.
Read it again.
Secure from detail assignments only when relieved by the contractor. I'm missing something.
Secure from the detail. So the when they're
The
done the
day is
job,
over when he tells you it's over.
when the contractor's done the job and he doesn't need any more traffic control, you're
Your-
done for the day.
Your day is over.
Is that the definition of secure?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Secure.
Okay.
Yes.
Secure to end the service.
Okay, so that's just not civilian language. I get it.
Yeah.
No.
Cool. I have no other objection.
Alright, then we'll have to pass on the,
Military thing.
Well, I would actually, Mr. Chairman, if you would accept it, I would make a motion to approve the Civilian Traffic Control Unit policy with the edit of deleting the reference on page 2 to the Hubbardston Police Department employees reference.
Second.
okay, we'll have to clarify that for Ryan, however, yes. Alright, motion is made and seconded to approve of the Civilian Traffic Controller Unit with the editing of the section under appointments,
Relevant to the Hubbardston Police Department employees.
okay? So that's made and second, any questions, any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Aye.
opposed? Okay,
Have Heather highlight. Go. You got it.
Yes,
Okay.
Heather.
I was gonna say, have Heather highlight it.
Needs to be removed, yes.
alright, item 9, we do have one,
Did I miss the town administrator report,
there wasn't one,
Passed
there
over.
wasn't one.
We passed it 'cause we're moving along here.
Matters not reasonably anticipated, we have one. Sandy, you wanna explain that? The first refusal?
Oh, yes, okay, so there is a property, on Ragged Hill Road that is owned by, Philbin and Scannell are the owners. There is a total of 47 acres, and they want to remove it from chapter 61
Where's the map?
to,
I have to recuse myself from this.
it's right across from
Not
Cross
this,
Road.
but these two.
So yes, total of 47 acres, they wanna remove it from chapter 61, which means the town
This one and that one.
gets to
Yeah.
vote on whether or not we want first right of first refusal, or we wanna pay $150,000 and purchase it for the town.
Do we have $150,000, Sandy? So
Not that I know of.
the only place we would possibly have is we'd have
That's
to
all
pull-
they're selling that for is
That's a lot of
$150,000?
acres for $150,000, cause land's going for
Yes.
what, 18-20,000
It's got,
acre in this town?
it's got a lot of swamp.
So it
So what?
is map 2, lots 39 and 41.
Yep.
The owners are Paul Scannell and Kara Philbin.
Wow, that's cheap.
They have entered into a contract for the sale of these to D2 Builders of Jefferson, for the sum of $150,000.
They are gonna put up with more kids in school.
Sandy, do we happen to, do you know what the clock is on this? Cause we only have
More
so many
property
days
taxes,
to make a
too.
decision.
Yeah, true.
Right, I believe we have up to 120 days to make a decision on this.
So they've already entered into contract with,
They have a contract,
so we get first rights,
that's
Yes.
right, the town has first right
at
First
$150,000.
at $150,000.
And we're scraping money now, there's no way we can even
No, but the
But
open space is trying to come up
space-
with plans
Yeah.
to try to use these properties,
Yeah.
especially when they're in chapter 61A, which I know this one is.
No, it's in chapter 61.
61, excuse me.
What is
Yeah.
chapter 61?
Forestry.
Forestry, they just
Okay.
logged it,
Okay,
okay?
yeah,
To
just like the other
buy
property.
these properties not through town funds, but to acquire them through like the North County Land Trust or
Yep.
East County Land Trust
Yep.
or something like that, DCR, to use for an open space
Like they did
environmental.
last year off of Lombard.
Yes.
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 Is-
So if that's an act in
Yeah.
progress, should we not take
I
any
would
action on it
make,
then?
if we have time to sit on it, I would sit on it and make sure open space is well aware of it and see what they wanna do.
Are they on top of it? Does anybody know?
Well, you have to tell them, they don't know about them unless we tell them.
Oh.
Sandy, can we table this?
We
and-
can,
And you let
I
open
can-
space know what's going on and then see
Sure.
what they wanna do?
okay,
If they're either interested or not.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so, and we'll bring, and you can put it on whenever you want on the agenda for next week, or if it needs longer.
Just as
Okay.
long as we're watching that timeline.
yes.
Yeah, 120-day period,
I believe
yeah,
it's 120 days, I'm gonna double check that too.
okay. Alright then,
Yeah.
Is this buildable property?
Well, if you got 47 acres,
What's
there's
that
probably some buildable property, it does have, parts of it do have, from the
Frontage.
map, you have some frontage right on Ragged Hill. So there's definitely some room there, whether or not they can put a development in there, that's not my thing.
Mike Stoll, 5 Lombard Road, the option must be exercised by the municipality within 120 days, so there's
I
one
was
answer.
right.
You were right. The second thing
Wow.
is, the Open Space Committee does have a list of all the chapter 61 properties, 61A and, B. And they're developing criteria to try to, prioritize these. And so you could go and tell them, and they'll say, okay, I think this is one of our high prize or our low prize. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
that was mentioned last year too.
alright, public press, nothing? Okay, so
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to general laws, chapter
Yeah,
30A,
Yep.
section 21A1, to discuss, deliberate, and take appropriate action in response to an open meeting law complaint filed against the select board received from Jill Mann on August 31st, 2022, to go into executive session and only to come back to open session for the purposes of adjournment.
So to come back into open session and then adjourn?
Yes.
That's what you're suggesting as opposed to adjourning now from the open session?
We can do it either way.
Well, it's,
We'll just adjourn in the, not
I'd like to
come back.
modify that at the very end,
Thank you.
that on Joe Man 8/31/2022, that we adjourn the open session and enter into executive session, and we will not be returning back to open session.
thank you.
Second.
Motion made and second, okay, this is a voice vote. Any discussion, any questions? Okay, Peter,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Yes.
Katie, Jeff, yes. So
I missed that. You
No.
approved the minutes?
No, we just went into executive
Okay,
Okay,
she's
we gotta-
logging in now, so.
Are those off, the cameras?
Hold on, they'll nod.